96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. New health rules to replace the emergency order. Stopover tourism near pre-COVID levels. Heated debate in the House over the previous administration's handling of the pandemic. And in our discussion today, we are talking with the U.S. Embassy about their new travel protocols and the requirements. We've got all the details. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up. It's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's here. It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Don Sargent will be joining us. Also this morning, we've got another drawing of the Bahamas COVID vaccination raffle. And later in Morning Blend Business, we're taking a closer look at climate change and what world leaders are hoping to accomplish at COP26 going on in Glasgow in Scotland. We've got some special guests who will be joining us to talk about that this morning. That's coming up. But first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while you're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, the Davis administration's rules to replace the current state of emergency and accompanying emergency orders will keep many of the current restrictions in place, remove others, and impose new mandates. Under the new rules, people who travel from the Bahamas and return within 24 hours will be exempt from having to take a COVID test to re-enter the country. And where a person travels from an island listed in the second schedule to any island in the Bahamas and returns to the originating island within a period of 24 hours, that person should not be required to take a test either. The second schedule islands include New Providence, Acklins, the Berry Islands, Crooked Island, Eleuthera, and Inagua. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Michael Darville, tabled the Health Services COVID-19 Prevention and Management of Community Spread Rules and the Health Services COVID-19 General Rules. The rules come into effect on November 13th, the day the state of emergency expires. The rules will require travelers entering the country to have a travel health visa. Vaccinated applicants for health visas will be required to undergo a COVID-19 test no more than 5 days before travel. Unvaccinated travelers will be required to undergo an RT-PCR test. People traveling from New Providence, Acklins, the Berry Islands, Crooked Island, Eleuthera, and Inagua, if vaccinated, must have a negative rapid antigen test or PCR test, or if not, a negative PCR test. And travelers departing from other islands in the country will not be required to undergo a COVID test. The new rules will maintain the mandate to wear masks in public, social distancing protocols, sanitizing requirements, entry requirements into the country, and other restrictive measures currently imposed by the emergency order. Under the rules, the minister can appoint an advisory committee that will advise him on the epidemiological status of COVID, the implementation of measures to guard against the spread of COVID and manage COVID, and the modification or discontinuation of restrictive measures more. Meanwhile, in a stinging rebuttal of accusations that the Davis administration has mishandled the COVID-19 pandemic on the Family Islands, Minister Darville firing back at former Prime Minister Dr. Reminis, telling him he should, quote, hang his head in shame over his administration's management of the crisis on those islands. During debate on a resolution thanking the Governor General for reading the speech from the throne yesterday, Minnis, leader of the opposition, accused the government of failing Family Islanders. But Darville said that when he assumed office, he met the Family Islands in a state of neglect. Former Water and Sewerage Corporation Executive Chairman Adrian Gibson barged into a courtroom, interrupting the magistrate who was on lunch break so that he could speak to her privately. Chief Magistrate Joanne Ferguson Pratt, who is presiding over the trial of contractor Gregory Miller, who Gibson alleges defamed him, had adjourned court for 20 minutes to eat before Miller's case was heard. At 1 p.m., Miller, who was sitting outside the court, complained loudly that Gibson was trying to meet the magistrate. When she reconvened court, Ferguson Pratt reprimanded Gibson in the presence of the defendant, the defendant's lawyer, Ian Cargill, and the prosecutor. Miller is accused of trying to defame Gibson by transferring $200 to his RBC account back in December 2018. He's accused of making defamatory remarks during a TV appearance in June 2019. Ferguson Pratt said that she asked Gibson to state what he wanted to tell her publicly, and he addressed press reports that the magistrate had given prosecutors a final adjournment after witnesses had failed to appear. You can read more about this in today's Nassau Guardian. And an inmate at the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services found dead inside his cell. Minister of National Security Wayne Monroe confirming this yesterday. Monroe made the revelation in the House of Assembly. He said the matter is under investigation at this moment. Overseas, an explosion went off today in front of a military hospital in Kabul in Afghanistan, causing casualties. According to the Taliban, the blast went off at one of the gates to Sardar Mohammed Dawood Khan Military Hospital. The number of casualties is unknown, and special forces were on the scene. There's no official confirmation of a second explosion that had been heard in the area of the hospital in the 10th district of Kabul. Area residents say they also heard the sound of gunfire. And more than 100 countries pledging today to end deforestation in the coming decade, a promise that experts say would be critical to limiting climate change, but one that has been made and broken before. Britain hailing the commitment as the first big achievement of the UN climate conference, known as COP26, taking place this month in Glasgow. But campaigners say they need to see the details to understand its full impact. The UK government said it received commitments from leaders representing more than 85% of the world's forests to halt and reverse deforestation by 2030. Among them are several countries with massive forests, including Brazil, China, Colombia, Congo, Indonesia, Russia, and the United States. More than $19 billion in public and private funds have been pledged toward the plan. In sports, from the NFL, Monday Night Football action, Patrick Mahomes lamented 2 more turnovers, and Chiefs coach Andy Reid a multitude of penalties, and just about everyone had stepped out of the Kansas City locker room, vowed to turn around what had been a disappointing season. And it almost sounded as if they'd lost to the Giants Monday night. Instead, the scuffling Chiefs rallied behind 2 fourth-quarter field goals, including the go-ahead 34-yarder with just over a minute left, and beat downtrodden New York 20-17 to even their record after 8 games. Again, Chiefs beating the Giants 20-17 last night. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your first look at weather for today, we've got a weak high-pressure ridge that will continue to dominate conditions across the northwest and central islands, while a stalled frontal boundary maintains pockets of unsettled weather across portions of the southeast Bahamas. Boaters in the southeastern islands should remain alert for possible waterspout activity. For today, for the northwest and central Bahamas, look for partly sunny and warm conditions with a chance of a few passing showers, turning mostly fair and mild at night. Winds northeast to east at 10 to 15 knots, but gusty at times. Seas 2 to 4 feet. For the southeast Bahamas, variable cloudiness and warm conditions expected, with a few scattered showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms through tonight. Small craft operators should be alert for gusty winds and higher seas, in or near heavy showers or thunderstorms. Winds northeast to east at 10 to 15 knots, seas 2 to 4 feet. Temperature-wise, today we're looking at highs getting up to around 86 Fahrenheit, 30 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down about 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have an extended outlook and a look at tropics coming up after traffic in just a bit.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
You are listening to Morning Blend. When we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
Old way. Wake up, it's a new day.
We are working to protect our country, our people, and our livelihoods so that we can move forward. The vaccine is safe. The vaccine is easy. The vaccine is essential for our recovery. If we want to rebuild our economy, if we want to get back to our jobs, if we want to get back to our lives, our families, we must do this together.
People helping people to help themselves.
All right, watch this. The credit union of the Bahamas, job card ain't got nothing on them. There's the plug.
People helping people to help themselves.
Don't believe me? Join the credit union and watch your money grow like Chef and Needle.
Credit unions are smarter choice. Higher rates on your savings.
Yeah, go join one.
Credit unions are smarter choice. More money you make.
More what? Stop that.
Credit unions are smarter choice. Higher rates on your savings.
Let me get my money there.
Credit unions are smarter choice. More money you make.
Join
a credit union. Watch your savings grow with higher interest rates. Become a member and purchase some shares. Then ownership is coming your way. They offer local banking members the owner. Personalized service. Come and join the credit union and your choice will be the smartest. I girl now. Credit unions are the smarter choice. Higher rates on your savings.
Technology makes every day in life just a little bit easier. Whether it's for joy, productivity, or creativity, Custom Computers has all the latest gadgets to conquer any obstacle. Imagine automating mundane tasks with tech and living a freer, richer lifestyle, all while staying on top of your goals. The path to freedom could fit in the palm of your hand. Discover tomorrow's technology today at Custom Computers on Patton Street, Cable Beach, and Caves Village through the Blake Road entrance.
What does Christmas mean to you? What about the joy and satisfaction you get in starting the home projects you've wanted to do all year? CIBC First Caribbean helps you make your Christmas wishes come true with easy and flexible financing on personal loans. Apply online and smile all the way this holiday season. Visit CIBCFCIB.com for more information. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We are streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 4224796 standard text rate supply. Coming up this morning, we've got more weather and traffic, and coming up in a few minutes, we're going to be talking with the U.S. Embassy about their new travel requirements for those entering the country, entering the U.S. What you need to have, know, do, all those things we'll get to as that new implementation date is fast approaching. And later, we've got another drawing of the Bahamas COVID vaccination raffle, and then in Morning Blend Business, as so many of the world leaders are gathered in Scotland for the COP26 conference. We're going to talk about climate change and what's happening here as well. We've got some special guests. We'll tell you more about that a little later in the show. That's coming up. So a lot to get to this morning. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. We've got Don Sargent with us. Good morning, Don.
Morning, Dwight.
Hope you're doing well.
Still alive.
Okay, well, that's always great. And let's begin with what's in the news. And in the news, the big story, the new rules to replace the emergency order. We're going to get to that in just a second. Just want to talk about the lead story, the top story in the Nassau Guardian. The headline reads, "You should hold your head in shame." That's Health Minister Darville blasting former Prime Minister Minnis over the pandemic, over his pandemic criticisms. And there's a lot of back and forth on who's horrible. Yeah. Okay. So you can pick up today's Nassau Guardian and read about that. And anyway, new health rules to replace the emergency order. They were tabled yesterday, outlining what is going to be required of us come November 13th. And let's hear more about it. Take a listen to this report from our Jasmine Brown.
While in opposition, we promised legislation to replace the emergency orders. This morning, we are delivering on that promise and finally closing this dark chapter in our country's history. On the 13th of this month, the current COVID-19 emergency orders will fall away, and the competent authority will be dismantled. We are amending Section 29 of the existing Health Services Act so that the management of the COVID-19 pandemic will now be the responsibility of the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Dr. Darville explaining in Parliament that the guidelines laid out in the Health Services COVID-19 Prevention and Management of Community Spread Rules 2021 and Health Services COVID-19 General Rules 2021 outline protocols for businesses, social gatherings, and other activities.
Even though cases have been falling, we cannot let our guard down. The virus spreads more rapidly indoors, and indoor gatherings with poor ventilation and large numbers of people can become super spreader events, ones which could threaten the progress that we have made thus far.
So what would the rules entail? According to the Health Services COVID-19 general rules, the minister shall appoint an advisory committee to advise him on current epidemiological status, inclusive of key indicators of the COVID-19 outbreaks and the implementation of measures to guard against the spread of reoccurrence of the deadly virus, among other things, including the sufficiency of hospital supplies and testing capacity.
These new rules will replace the emergency orders. They will also allow us the flexibility to make adjustments as needed to respond to the changing variables that this pandemic presents.
When it comes to public health protocols like the wearing of masks in public and practicing social distancing, they will continue to be enforced. Violation of the health rules could attract penalties that range from hundreds to thousands of dollars. Individuals found not wearing masks could be fined $250. Those breaking quarantine could be fined $500. A business owner, manager, or operator of any business convicted of failing to enforce any COVID-19 protocol could also face fines. When it comes to vaccinations, the rules also state that anyone who is convicted of using a fake vaccination record can be fined up to $10,000 or 2 years imprisonment or both. Reporting for Guardian News Network, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Okay. All right. So there's a lot here. And a lot of it is similar to what the previous administration had proposed to do in terms of replacing the competent authority with more of the decision-making in the hands of the minister and a panel, right, on the advice of a panel. So as in regards to that part, pretty similar, but just the rules themselves. And there's a lot there. So I know what I'm most interested in, but you all tell me what part you want to hear. We'll look through that together. Don, which parts are you most interested in? You care about the travel issue, the travel stuff? We can talk about that. Or I'm concerned about being social and what's allowed and what's not going to be allowed.
I don't know if I heard that last part right, because it kind of like was in and out for me for a bit on my internet.
I'm saying which parts
was it stated that that fines are going to remain essentially, or was that just from the previous administration's efforts?
There would be fines. I don't know if the fines will be the same. We can go through that. But there would be fines for violators of any of these protocols.
But wasn't a criticism by the opposition when ministers introduced and increased the fines and the penalties? Wasn't a criticism that the law is being used to coerce people into following the protocols, and that's not the correct way to go about doing things? That this is the same thing, isn't it?
You know how it works, right? In your opposition.
Hey, you have lots of everybody have hard mode in opposition, just like ministers have all the hard mode in opposition now. But then the realities of governance are never pretty, are they?
Yeah. But I mean, if you don't do these things, people never follow the rules.
I mean, I agree. I'm just saying, but if your criticism is literally this is coercion, you shouldn't be doing this, and then you turn around and do the same thing.
I think a lot of their criticism was the fact that there seemed to be no leniency or understanding where you went out during a lockdown to get water and yet, right? As opposed to, what are you doing having a big old party at 2 a.m.? So just having some regard for the situation, taking that into account before just blasting fines and threatening imprisonment on everybody. And the discretion didn't seem to be there in some regards.
But the discretion up to who, though?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing.
Who's the discretion up to? The same police force?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this. As we'll go through a lot of these and the religious instruction, social gatherings, and other activities. So with religious instruction activities, a church or place of religious instruction or worship may conduct services, including a wedding or a funeral, in accordance with the protocols established by the Bahamas Christian Council and approved by the ministry. A funeral service conducted in a church or place of religious instruction shall be conducted without the presence of the remains in an urn or a casket inside the church. Notwithstanding paragraph 1, a church or place of religious instruction or worship on an island listed in the second schedule may conduct services provided that, and again, second schedule islands include New Providence, Acklands, Berry Islands, Crooked Island, Luthra, and Inagua. They can do this provided that attendance is limited to 33% of the occupancy of the facility where the service is being conducted, and the protocols established by the Christian Council and approved by the ministry are adhered to. With graveside services, a funeral service may be held at a graveside, provided that all attendees and officiants adhere to A, the COVID-19 protocols, and B, any protocols issued by the Christian Council and the ministry. Social gatherings. A person may host or attend a social gathering at a private residence with not more than 20 persons at a facility, provided that A, all attendees are fully vaccinated, and B, all COVID protocols are adhered to. Not more than 20. Not more than 20. Everybody's got that? Everybody's cool with that? Christmas coming. Super Bowl coming. 20. Yep. Oh, okay. No matter how big your mansion is or the field. 20. Okay. Number 2, a person may host or attend a social gathering held outdoors. Okay, well, let's see now what they say about that. A, provided that all attendees are either fully vaccinated or present. Okay, so it doesn't have to be 20 if it's outdoors. No restrictions on that. Provided that all attendees are fully vaccinated or present a negative COVID-19 test, and B, subject to adherence to all COVID-19 protocols. Okay, so we got that. If you do have it outdoors, you could do more than 20. But indoors, in the AC. That's cool, Don? You fine with that? You fine with that?
How do you feel about it, Dwight?
20. What's going to happen if you have 22? What are we going to have? The party police? Are they going to be counting the people at your party?
Party police. Oh my God.
Will they have to hide?
What is you still give your opinion?
And I think we're going to have some challenges. Okay.
I thought I was the only person thinking that. I was just like,
challenges. But 20. Okay. I mean, 20. It's a good number. 20. And they're all vaccinated. And if they all, maybe you required them to have a test. How about that? What if they all tested negative? To come to my party, you got to have a COVID test, and you have to be vaccinated.
What? COVID test within 3 to 5 days?
Yeah. How about that? Or a rapid antigen the day before. And, so can't I do 30? Anyway, the other one is a person who hosts or attends a social gathering contrary to this rule commits an offense and is liable upon summary conviction. A, in the case of a host, to a fine not exceeding $2,000 and $300 for each person in attendance. Oh, well, 20 it is. Oh, my Lord. $2,000 and $300 for each person in attendance. And B, in the case of an attendee, to a fine not exceeding $300. Whoa. So when you arrive to the party...
the fines are lower, aren't they? Because I think under minister fines are much more.
Okay. So if I come to the party and I see the 24 people, somebody got to go. Quick.
It's incumbent upon you to call the police. Oh, Lord.
That's interesting stuff. Okay. Then there's more recreational and competitive sporting activity. There's been a big challenge since the pandemic. A lot of the recreational sports and sporting leagues have folded up, essentially. So they're saying here, a group recreational and competitive sporting activity may be held provided that A, persons engaged in active participation, coaches, and persons officiating the sporting activity are fully vaccinated and present a negative COVID-19 test result prior to the sporting activity. B, the number of persons intended to engage in active participation for any team sport is limited to the number of persons necessary for team play in that sport. And C, all persons, including team members, staff, and officials who are not engaged in active participation, wear face masks at all times and remain physically distanced in accordance with the COVID-19 protocols. A person may engage in group exercise activities subject to Rule 9.4a, which was, that's way back, okay, of the Health Services Code, provided that the group is limited to not more than 10 persons. And a sporting activity promoted by an educational institution may be conducted in accordance with guidelines or protocols as issued or approved by the ministry. And for professional sporting activity, the minister may authorize the hosting of a professional sporting activity subject to the compliance by the promoters and participants with these rules. A promoter of a professional sporting activity shall apply in writing to the minister for authorization, and such application shall propose the creation of a bubble, providing A, for the location of the activity, B, for the number of persons per team, including the officials, players, coaches, trainers, strength coaches, equipment managers, security, and frontline personnel, C, for the accommodation of the persons referred to in paragraph B. D, the frequency of COVID-19 testing for the persons referred to in paragraph B. Okay. And E, for the number of guests per team member, provided that number does not exceed 4. F, that the venue for those sporting activity has sufficient capacity to enable adherence to physical distancing protocols pursuant to Rule 8 of the Health Services General Rules. And a person eligible for inclusion in a bubble must be fully vaccinated and maintain negative COVID-19 test results. And where a person in the bubble is suspected to have been exposed to COVID-19 or test positive for COVID-19, that person shall be quarantined, screened, or isolated in accordance with Rules 18 to 24. And this is the final part here. Spectators and recreational, competitive, and professional sporting activity. Spectators shall A, be fully vaccinated and present proof of vaccination and a negative COVID-19 test upon entry to the sporting activity. Okay. B, wear a face mask when not eating or drinking. And C, comply with all other COVID-19 protocols. All right, so we've got some events coming up in a few weeks, basketball, and we've got college football. And so in order to go, you're going to have to be vaccinated and present proof of vaccination and a negative COVID-19 test result. All right, let's get your views on those things there. These are the things that are going to impact you maybe even daily. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. Just want to say, I've gone through this. I don't see anything about curfews. So it looks like that, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, folks. Maybe you've gone through it as well.
Yeah, I was waiting on you to say something about that. So are curfews finally a thing of the past, and we can all be adults and not have to have the government tell us when we can and cannot leave our homes?
Yeah, I don't see it. Like I said, that was going to be a very difficult one to enforce. Why would you have a curfew? Why would you have a curfew? Why would you be telling people? I am shocked, though, that they didn't put in what I really thought, which is seeing all over the world, times for businesses to close, maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m. type stuff, but they didn't do that. So that's interesting. But these are some very strict rules here, and will definitely limit the number of people and what can and cannot happen in these places. So maybe, yeah, sure, stay open. But, all right, let's get your views on it. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Dwight.
Hi, good morning.
Hi. Morning, Don. And
Good
morning to the Bahamas. I was listening to you guys keenly in regards to those rules, but I'm not necessarily wanting to touch on that this morning. I'd like to touch on something else that you guys reported on from yesterday, sitting in the House of Assembly. I don't remember the minister's name for agriculture. What's his name again? From South and Central Eleuthera.
Sweeting.
Clay okay.
Sweeting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I listened to his contribution yesterday, and in the context of this world, in just an international climate change conference or summit that they're having now, something jumped out at me that bothers me in respect to the way we do business in this country, the hypocrisy that we are constantly displaying as a people. Our Prime Minister is now at this conference talking about ways and means by which we can reduce or eliminate this threat to our country or small nation, island states like the Bahamas. But yet you have facilities like a BAMSI, for example, when it was not built, as I understand it, with the capacity to have solar energy powering the place. When I heard the minister say that they are on standby generators, that those fossil fuel generators only turned on when people come over to BAMSI, but otherwise are left off. Are left turned off when people are not necessarily there or using the full facility. It baffles me that as a people who are supposing to be thinking out of the box, who are supposed to be looking at ways and means to maintain a healthy environment, that we are not looking at the outfitting of these places with solar and wind energy from the time they are being designed and built. Why has not BAMSI been built, designed and built with solar energy and wind energy in mind, gentlemen?
Yeah. Well, if you listen to BPL, thank you very much. If you listen to BPL, they'll tell you that it's costly. It's very costly, and they've been trying to do a lot of things with the bond issuance, but that is not looking good right now, right? Yeah, and there are a lot of things to take into consideration, and they claim that especially in some of these islands, the wind issue won't be sufficient. The wind factor isn't sufficient enough for what you're talking about, the scale. But these are great questions. Hopefully the minister is going to do something about that. He said he was shocked to see the state that BAMSI is in, and hopefully things will change. All right. Let's get another call in. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Glenn.
Hi, good morning.
Religious instructions. Listen, it boils down to the fact that we personally have to save ourselves. This is personal responsibility. I don't know why we are listening for dictations coming from the church, from members of parliament, from whoever you want to call it. We have enough information to know about what's going on to save ourselves. Let me give you an example. Suppose I see you walking, because you have this bad habit. You can't cross the road properly. And you're always walking, and I see a car coming, and I decided to rush and push you out of the way. But at the same time, I end up getting hit. Well, look, I didn't die for you. Nobody could. I just prevented you from dying that time. But you will eventually get hit because of that bad habit. So you have to save yourself. Stay away from people, crowds. Be smart. The virus is going to get you when you get weak. Save yourself. No one could die for you. That's a bunch of foolishness they taught us. Forget that. Save yourself. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sure. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us. 422-4796. Let's take this call, and then we're going to look at some businesses and what's going to be required of them. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Early days in Strachan, voice along with you and Dawn, Dwight.
Hi, good morning.
Got Dawn right today. A couple of things I want to say. First, I want to say those guys over at BPL, they know, even though it's our money, they won't control our money for themselves.
Okay, you heard what we were talking about today, though. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Get to what we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this thing here, those guys. I don't know why those guys that's in authority always think that the Bahamian people stupid, especially the colored people. Here it is. You're going to say that it's not monetary that you get vaccinated, right? Then you're going to allow people to go in a place, 20 people to go in a place, but they must be vaccinated. What you saying to me, man? You're speaking with two tongues. Man, hey, Roger, I'll get your act together. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's for private events, right? Like your home. And I suspect the vaccinated people will be fine with that. They don't really want, right? Am I wrong? Unvaccinated. Anyway, okay. Business operations. Let's look at this really quickly, and then we'll get back to your calls and your text messages. educational instruction. And educational instruction may operate provided A, that all persons entering and remaining on the campus shall adhere to all COVID-19 protocols. B, that there is at least one isolation area that is clearly identified and appropriately equipped. And C, adhere to all guidelines issued or approved by the ministry. A person is permitted to operate a homeschool program provided that any guidelines issued by the Ministry of Education are adhered to. Salons, barbershops, and spas. 1, a hairstylist, barber, or any other cosmetologist may operate subject to being certified by the ministry. 2, the operator of a salon, barbershop, or spa shall ensure that the occupancy of the salon, barbershop, or spa does not exceed 1 patron per service provider at any time. Restaurants. A person may operate utilizing inside dining provided that A, all patrons are fully vaccinated or have a valid negative rapid antigen test result. Or have a valid negative rapid antigen test result. B, the maximum seating shall be 50% of the seating capacity of that restaurant with a minimum of 30 square feet per person. C, that seating is arranged in accordance with physical distancing protocols. D, that masks are worn by staff in accordance with the protocols. E, that masks are worn by patrons when dining at all times except when eating or drinking. And F, tables, chairs, and other implements used by patrons are sanitized after each use. Number 2, a restaurant shall be permitted to operate utilizing outside dining, provided that all COVID-19 protocols are adhered to by staff and patrons, and tables, chairs, and other implements used by patrons are sanitized after each use. So if you're doing outdoor dining, you don't have to be fully vaccinated. And it appears that, you don't even have to provide a test. Okay, so that is similar to what's been happening, and that will continue to be in place for the foreseeable future. Public transportation, subject to guidelines issued by the ministry, a taxi service, private or public bus service shall operate at 50% of normal seating capacity. Okay, so the main differences here are when it comes to what you're doing in your house. And you can have people, but no more than 20. All right, so again, let's continue to get your views on that. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
What they call these new rules or whatever, it seems as though it's only dealing with the COVID, right? It doesn't seem like it have intentions of dealing with any future outbreak of any kind of contagious disease. That's the case. It only mentions COVID, right?
Well, okay, there's one that's specific to COVID, and then there's the general health rules. There's two different bills. And so that one allows for, which is similar to what the previous administration had put out for consultation, so that the health minister makes the decisions based on the panel.
From this thing started, like the Quarantine Act, which deals specifically with certain contagious diseases, has never been really fully explained, especially a provision 7, which gives the minister the authority to make certain rules to stop the spread of any contagious disease. It shall be lawful for the minister in any emergency, which, in the opinion of the minister, the provisions of this act or rules made under authority of this act are inadequate by order to erect such measures to be taken during the continuance of an emergency, as the nature of the case may require for the purpose of preventing the introduction. So we have a lot of lawyers in this country, right? And I haven't heard anybody, except I think former Justice Jones, she tried to explain that we could have used the Quarantine Act because it speaks about emergency.
Well, now the health services COVID general rules will supersede that, it seems, and so allow the health minister with the guidance of a panel to do that.
Like I said, it seems like the two acts are overlapping one another.
Yeah,
so
this
the
will.
Quarantine Act, they give the minister powers to do certain things, make rules. Now, they didn't specify which type rules, but it said to make rules. So the stuff is basically like rules.
Yeah, well, this will handle that now, and this new legislation will handle that now.
Right, but I said it should be. That's why I asked specifically about COVID.
Again, again, there's two pieces of legislation. So it's the Health Services COVID General Rules, and then the Health and Services COVID-19 Prevention and Management of Community Spread Rules.
So it seems like just the emergency order is going to fall away. Emergency orders where it could suspend your civil liberties, a bar is falling away on the 13th, which is kind of a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And these rules is basically almost the same stuff what was part of the emergency orders.
Some of it.
Hello?
Some of it, somewhat. And there's some new things.
Some of it is basically the same as what was in some of the emergency orders. So it's more incumbent now for the general public, to continue to just follow the basic rules. And we could beat this thing if more people decide to follow the basic rules that have been in place for a long time. And that's where we have a problem. Is people keep letting their guard down, thinking that it can't happen to them. And that's the sad part.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just need more people to be more disciplined. Because for me, I hate the government telling me I can't leave my house that is hurting down. Just like in prison.
Yeah.
So
well, freedom comes on the 13th. So there we go.
Hopefully, freedom with responsibility.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. You too. Let's take this call and we'll get to your text messages. Good morning, caller. You are on the air. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Dwight. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good morning, DFO. Yeah, Dwight, the COVID orders that you're talking about, if 50% of persons in the building or the minimum of 30 square feet per person, right?
Yes, depending on the situation, depending on what it is.
So that's, once you follow that, you'd be okay, right?
Hopefully.
Hello?
Hopefully. Hello? We can hear you. Is he gone?
Hello,
okay.
No.
Hi. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that is flawed. The 30 feet is flawed because if the social distancing is at 6 feet, 6 square feet is 36 feet. So automatically, the order is flawed, at least because at least the legislation they plan to do. Because if it's 36 square feet for 6 feet, 30 square feet, that means you're breaking the social distance rule. I'm doing the math on it, okay? So that they have to correct that if they want that to be at least seal-proof when persons going before the courts and winning the case, because 30 ain't 60 square foot per person is already violating itself. So that means persons can just go before the court and say, well, it's 36 square feet, but the government got it wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, okay. I am sure if you have time to waste, you could do it, I guess. Yeah. All right. And this one? Are you taking that call? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Strachan.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Dawn. Yeah, Mr. Strachan. I have been correct of many things I've said in the past on this Guardian radio, right? You don't have to say yeah, but what I'm noticing is that I don't know if you guys think people just listen to the AP News or not, but AP News said that even though Europe was fully vaccinated, or basically 80 to 90% vaccinated, they're still seeing surges, right? Now, I want to make a deductive reasoning here, and I want you to listen very carefully, please. I don't know if the message that Dr. Pearl Macmillan was circulating about the vaxxed spreading the virus, right? The Delta variant. Now, we know it's more virulent, right? So my question is, I don't know if you guys understand virology and transmission dynamics and the fact that, viruses mutate, right? Naturally. But the influenza strain has a high mutagenic rate because of its characteristics of reassortment and antigenic shift, which in the influenza virus is the only virus that goes through antigenic shift. You guys haven't listened to people because there's no reciprocity, and that's why you're not learning anything. So here's what the problem is, Dwight, and this is very crucial. We all should agree that measures should be implemented, right? So the thing is I have here is this is pure common sense. Where is herd immunity? You have to understand that in order for herd immunity to be achieved, you have to establish cross-immunity against all the variants, which is presuppositional until you prove that. So the fact that you have people who are vaxxed can still have the disease and contract the disease and transmit the disease. Here's where the folly lies. Even with the doctor you had on the other day, he thinks he's the only person with a brain. And here's what is uncontested. We should still be continue testing people whether vaxxed or unvaxxed. Here's why. That is the only way to get a real breakthrough case data.
Well, we haven't stopped the testing.
Hello, Dwight, listen, please. Please listen,
but the
Dwight,
testing
please.
hasn't stopped.
Yeah, Dwight, listen to me, please. What I'm saying is, you have to continue to test people because breakthrough cases can still be asymptomatic and they can still spread the disease. Hence, all of this paradigm about how many breakthrough cases is foolishness because the only way you can get real breakthrough cases is if you continue to test people whether vaxxed or unvaxxed. Now, I'm surprised that most of us have fallen for this global psyops without even seeing what the reconstruction of sociology, the social aspects of this new COVID virus is. And even when you look at the whole chronology of this disease, let's say it wasn't a lab leak, let's say it wasn't a biologically enhanced function or gain of function, right? Which and I know it is, because I saw the memorandum from the NIH. They disappeared it off their website. What you have to realize is China's actions, or rather inactions, resulted in the spread of the virus, Dwight.
Yeah.
And so you cannot socially re-engineer people around a specific disease, which it is scientific dictatorship because you're not allowing deductive reasoning in order to arrive at a general consensus worldwide. You look at the geopolitical bullying tactics with the vaccination drives, and et cetera, et cetera. These people are not interested. How long have I said that this disease was already reached an endemic equilibrium as I listened to the Barrington Declaration? How long ago that was, Dwight? Eventually, everybody would get it. It's just how strong your immune system is. All right?
Okay.
And it's very frightening that most of us have fallen for this global psyops, and we're all going to be enslaved because of technology and science. Have a good day.
Okay. Let's read some text messages. How about that? Here's a text. Aren't the PLP doing the same thing the competent authority did, only now with law? So what's the difference? Good morning, Dwight.
The only difference so far seems to be no curfew. So I'm excited about that, I guess.
This one here, Dwight. Good morning, Dwight and Alvin. I don't know who that is. Okay. I believe no media... okay. I believe no media house should play any criticism from the former competent authority until May 10th, 2022. He could have been doing everything he has a problem with, but he chose to call an election when he didn't have to. It's just mind-boggling to listen to him. Okay. I am so confused why we continue with the stupid approach to COVID instead of targeting protection for the vulnerable. What do you mean by that? What is targeting protection for the vulnerable? What does that entail? Because the vulnerable have been urged to come forward and get vaccinated and to follow all the protocols. Many don't want to. Targeted, you're just gonna what? Just go after them and I don't understand. Explain yourself. All right, this one here. You, Dwight, you want to know what's going to happen if there's more than 20? Host a function, find out. Yeah, that's right. Well, you heard the numbers. The fine is great. That fine is, or maybe you could charge the people to come to the event. And then when you get fined, just give that money. But then you might have to have anyway, don't do that. Don't do that. All right. Are we free and is the curfew lifted? Get with it. The PLP swing the people, but y'all can blame Minutes because he was not so worthless. The PLP would not be in what? If he wasn't so worthless, the PLP would not be in. I don't know. Okay. It appears the rules are just the same. Only the new thing is the administration and the administrator. Not quite. There are some different things, but okay. The fine for the party host is $2,000 and then $300 for each guest, or is it $300 for each guest over the 20-person limit? Don't find out. Don't find out. But it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And they're going to be guests hiding in the cupboards. I can see it now. When the party inspectors, who's going to do this? you're going to have
So
the police
COVID
come
police,
to do?
are they still going to be around?
Well, maybe that's what they're going to do, be the party inspectors.
And what happened to those cars that were bought? Like, are those going to go transfer over to the police force after
I
all this is
saw
over?
one. I saw one the other day. I mean, we're still going to need people to make sure the rules are being adhered to. So I'm sure.
No, I mean,
they'll
like,
still be
let's
in
say
use.
next year, the same time. Hopefully, we're for the most part out of this situation. I don't know if we will be.
Sure.
But Dwight, come on, you have some.
No, they'll need those cars. A lot of PLP text messages today. I don't want to be talking about COVID though. But okay, same level of restraint that was put in place by the previous competent authority, and now a level of discrimination with social events. Countries that are progressing are foregoing these draconian measures. Are they? All right. You sure? What about concerts? I didn't hear anything about concerts just now. Well, they talked about events. I think it'll be the same thing. And if it's outdoors, going to have a little more flexibility. Let's see if I can see anything specific. Social gatherings, recreational and competitive sporting activity, professional sporting, spectators at recreational, competitive. Yeah, well, I think it's going to be along the same lines as recreational spectators. So if you're a spectator at a sporting activity, you have to be fully vaccinated and present proof of vaccination and a negative COVID test upon entry to the sporting activity. And you have to wear a mask when not eating and drinking. I suspect it'll be the same thing if we ever have those again, concerts. Yeah. Isn't it hypocritical Russian roulette how small, low-lying countries like ours try to scold G20 countries over pollution and climate change while involved in or engaging in oil drilling? Hashtag sit small till your name call. Straw arguments will be picked apart on the world stage. Well, perhaps, but also it's hypocritical for the members of those countries that have become wealthy from oil to scold us for contemplating oil drilling. So there's a lot of hypocrisy all around. Can you go over the travel rules? I can't find the latest version. Also, if you were to travel, say, to the U.S. for a day or two, can you use your test to go over to get back in since it's within the 5-day window, or would you need to try to get another test the same day to come back? Okay, let's do that really quickly, and plus we're going to be talking with the U.S. Embassy in just a few minutes about their rules. All right, so the travel rules, and there's a lot on that in the paper today as well. All right, so under the new rules, people who travel from the Bahamas and return within 24 hours will be exempt from having to take a COVID test to re-enter the country. Where a person travels from the Bahamas and returns within a period of 24 hours, the person shall not be required to undergo a new COVID-19 test to re-enter the country. Where a person travels from an island listed in the second schedule to any other island in the Bahamas and returns to the originating island within a period of 24 hours, the person shall not be required to undergo a COVID-19 test. And second schedule islands, again, New Providence, Acklins, Berry Islands, Crooked Island, Eleuthera, and Inagua. The new rules require travelers entering the country to have a travel health visa. Vaccinated applicants for health visas will be required to undergo a COVID-19 test no more than 5 days before travel. Unvaccinated travelers will be required to undergo an RT-PCR test. People traveling from New Providence, Acklins, the Berry Islands, Crooked Island, Eleuthera, and Inagua must, if vaccinated, have a negative rapid antigen test or PCR test, or if not, a negative PCR test. Travelers departing from other islands in the country will not be required to undergo a COVID-19 test. The new rules will maintain the mandate to wear masks in public, social distancing protocol, sanitizing requirements, entry requirements in the country, and many of the other restrictive measures. Yep. Okay. Let's take these two calls, and then we have to take a break. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. All right. Let's take the other one. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Good morning to all.
Hi, good morning.
You know, I don't see how our leaders could go and talk about asking other countries to support them, right? Because of what they're doing to the climate, right? But and then Bamsi saying that our solar is too expensive. what, you know, I mean, if it's too expensive for us, why isn't it too expensive for others?
What?
See?
What do you mean by that?
it's saying it's
Because
too
we don't have the
expensive
money they have. That's.
I mean, everybody has a form with money. You know, I'm saying that you know, it's not unique to the Bahamas. You know what I'm saying? And
No, we don't know what you're saying.
Okay then, so let's forget that. Okay, so what about going to a party in a home and being socially distanced in a home? You know, are we all living in mansions? You know, you got 30 people at a party.
20.
Hello?
20. Only 20.
20 people at a party.
Mm-hmm.
And the rooms, many of the rooms are not 20 by 20. You know, you walk in a room, the room is with a 12 by 12. You know.
If you're concerned, don't go to the party.
Right. You know, but that doesn't make any sense. And then you go in a church. I passed a church the other day, with one particular church, in Elizabeth Estates. Man, the parking lot full. If it was me in the parking lot full, you know, more than one person in a car. You know, that's how the church looks. I mean, what's inside the church. You know, as well as you put a restriction on sporting events and the like. You know, and I guess the same thing on bars and restaurants. You know what I'm saying? But then you go in these churches, there's no restriction. There's no restriction.
They have restrictions. There are restrictions.
And then these things, there's nothing.
There are restrictions on everything.
The change in these laws and rules is just a curfew. Nothing drastically different.
What did you want to see?
You know what I'm saying? Not what I want to see. I'm just saying the hypocrite.
But what would you want to see? I mean, we're still in the middle of something very serious. What would you want to see?
Honestly, debatable. What I don't want to see, like I say, is the hypocritical approach.
Well, then that means you don't want to see humans, because that's all we are, hypocrites, all the time. But I mean, you know, this is a tricky situation. If you're concerned, don't go. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. If you have concerns, don't go. Very simple. One final call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Strachan. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. Good morning.
Morning to you again. Mr. Strachan, you just watch a sporting event like basketball and football.
I do.
You see how packed the stadiums is be.
It's terrifying.
So I know we like to follow everything the United States do. I mean, like they say, social distance and all of that stuff. You think all it, those people 6 feet apart?
Well, they're not saying that with the new rules. They're saying you have to be vaccinated and have a test.
So we could be vaccinated and go buck wild just like they do in the States then.
And have a negative test.
Okay, just trying to find something out. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Are you going to go now? Is he gone? No? Okay. Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Are you prepared? Is that going to make you comfortable? People are really desperate to get back to big events, sports, junk canoe, right? Concerts. If you have to be vaccinated and have to have a negative test, are we all on board? Don, you think it's going to make a difference?
Repeat that again, Dwight.
Is it going to make a difference? The vaccination and the test are going to allow us to get back to concerts, the junk canoe, sports, all of that stuff. Will people be fine with that?
Weren't we promised free testing, or is it not happening anymore?
Now, that's an interesting question there. Where does that fit into all of this? And who will be able to get a free test? Can you get a free test to go to that party or to go to that concert, to go to junk canoe? Or is free testing only when you are suspected of being sick or being exposed?
But who getting free testing now, though?
No, they didn't say yet. They didn't say it's going to happen right now. But when it does happen, who will it be for? Will it be for everybody? I'm sure that's a very expensive question.
It is a very expensive question, but there's still a lot of difficulties with it, because I knew of it. You know what? I'm going to go into that. But yeah, it'd be nice if that could happen. The free testing situation, especially PCR tests.
Mm-hmm.
Prices for those have thankfully come down, right? Because once upon a time, we put $300.
It's still too expensive.
200 something bucks now. It's 100 something bucks.
That's a lot.
Average. It is still a lot of money to put on somebody who then has to get sometimes multiple of those just to come back to work. It's a wonky situation, Dwight. But yeah, I think the getting out of this situation is incumbent upon easy access to testing, just like you said. Preferably free testing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing that repeatedly during the campaigning time. Obviously, like you said, it's an expensive proposition. And as for vaccinations, Dwight, what are our numbers like now? We're approaching 50% of the population at this point.
Not quite, but 130,000+ as of
fully
over the
vaccinated.
weekend. Yeah, mm-hmm.
And I think it's almost 200,000 have gotten at least one shot.
I don't know. That's not what I saw. But let's see. I have it here. 135,000 have received at least one dose, and 133,000 fully vaccinated.
Okay, those numbers are catching up quickly.
All right. So, let's take the break. But this is a great question here. How can we control those who are not vaccinated from attending events like Junkanoo? I don't see it possible. Well, maybe the venue has to change. Maybe there'll have to be some big gates. I don't know. But you can do that at concerts. You can do that at sporting events. But Junkanoo, that's going to be interesting. That's why we're not doing it this year. They're saying it looks like another virtual event. But what does it mean for the future of events like Junkanoo? Yeah. All right, let's take the break. We'll be back. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9.
Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Body to get tired and fatigued. In the same way, COVID-19 has brought on fatigue, but we must not give up the fight. Wear your mask over your mouth and nose, stay at least 3 feet apart from others, wash and sanitize your hands often, and avoid touching your face. Together, we will win.
This message is brought to you by the PAHO WHO Bahamas Interpreting Cases Country Office, the Ministry of Health, and the Healthy Bahamas Coalition.
Experience holiday shopping joy with an RBC Rewards Visa Platinum credit card. Apply by December 31st and receive 20,000 welcome points. Enjoy multiple ways to redeem your RBC rewards, including My Way Travel Credit, Cashback Credit, gift cards, and much more. Apply today at your nearest branch or rbc.com/Caribbean/Visa Rewards and experience holiday joy with RBC. Conditions apply.
We are working to protect our country, our people, and our livelihoods so that we can move forward. The vaccine is safe. The vaccine is easy. The vaccine is essential for our recovery. If we want to rebuild our economy, if we want to get back to our jobs, if we want to get back to our lives, our families, we must do this together.
What happened to you? You look like you lost your paycheck.
Man, I just realized I got scammed out of a bunch of money. They said I won this contest and just needed me to send them some money so I could collect. I mean, to expedite something. Or was it to smooth the process?
Man, you're smarter than that. Protect yourself against scams and fraud by following these tips. If you know you didn't enter a competition, you can't win. Never pay to receive a cash prize. If you're being asked, you're being scammed. Check trusted internet sites for verification of information given to you. Do not give your banking details to people you don't know. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Monitor your bank account regularly for any questionable transactions. Get more information at getmoneysmartbahamas.com.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us 422-4796. And now at 8:20, time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. We've got a weak high-pressure ridge that will continue to dominate conditions across the northwest and central Bahamas, while a stalled frontal boundary maintains pockets of unsettled weather across portions of the southeast Bahamas. Boaters in the southeast Bahamas should be alert for possible waterspout activity. Your forecast for today for the northwest and central Bahamas: partly sunny and warm with a chance of a few passing showers. Mostly fair and mild tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, variably cloudy and warm with a few scattered showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms through tonight. Temperature-wise, today look for highs getting up to around 86 Fahrenheit, 30 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to 70 Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. In your extended outlook, a trough will migrate northwestwards from the southeast Bahamas from late Wednesday and increase rain chances across the area heading into the weekend ahead of a cold front that's coming in. So for tomorrow, Wednesday, look for variable cloudiness and scattered showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms, mainly across the central and southeastern islands. Then Thursday, partly to mostly cloudy with a few scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. In the tropics, we've still got tropical storm Wanda out there, about 800 miles west of the Azores, moving east-northeast at 8 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds near 50 miles per hour. Not going to be a threat to anybody, though. And a low-pressure system offshore from the northern coast of Panama is showing a low chance, about 10% chance of tropical cyclone formation through the next 5 days. Again, none of these systems posing any threat to the Bahamas. That's your Morning Blend weather check, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. What's first for you comes first for us. And at 8:22, time for your traffic alert, brought to you by RBC Royal Bank. In your real-time traffic this morning, a lot happening out there, a lot to deal with for you this morning, especially if you are on Mile Butler Highway. Heavy traffic from south of Fire Trail Road in the northbound lanes all the way up to Tawny Williams Darling Highway. It's backed up eastbound on Fire Trail as well. That's going to be, as we said, all the way up to the roundabout with Tawny Williams Darling Highway, which itself is backed up westbound to that roundabout this morning. Gladstone Road also looking busy for you. The northbound lane out all the way up to JFK Drive from just north of Fire Trail. JFK Drive busy westbound and eastbound to that roundabout this morning. If you are in Carmichael Road trying to get onto Blue Hill Road, know that there's a lot of traffic for you eastbound. As you approach Blue Hill, you're going to be seeing that all the way up to Fire Trail and east to Blue Hill. And Blue Hill's busy from south of St. Vincent all the way up to Independence Drive, especially north of Soldier Road. Independence Drive also backed up westbound to that roundabout. Other issues: Zion Boulevard looking terrible for you, westbound especially. And Cowpen Road eastbound to Blue Hill Road also not pleasant this morning. And East Street is busy, especially south of the Independence Drive east-west highway roundabout, mainly between Soldier and that roundabout there, the northbound lanes. In eastern New Providence, Eastern Road, very messy for you, westbound, from east of Foxer Road all the way practically up to Montague. Very slow-going traffic for you there. And Bernard Road is congested near the schools in the area. And that intersection has been troublesome for the past couple of months. Soldier Road, northbound especially, and Bernard, Wolf, and Village. Not a place you'd want to be right now. So keep that in mind. Those are your hottest spots at the moment, but there are a lot of issues on the streets this morning, so you'll need your patience. That's your real-time traffic and your Morning Blend Traffic Alert, brought to you by RBC Royal Bank, banking reimagined.
Best rate, no delay. Best rate, no delay. BTC gives more savings on the best fiber internet. It's super fast with super savings in every package.
package. Compare and see for yourself. Enjoy up to 150 megabits per second plus 157 TV channels and unlimited home phone minutes for only $99.99.
Best rate, no delay.
Visit a VTC store to sign up for the best internet experience on the Bahamas' best fiber network. Conditions apply.
For 38 years, Strachan Commercial Pest Services has provided trained certified technicians while using environmentally safe, industry-standard products. Pests can devastate your business. Together, we will ensure adequate sanitation standards and safe pest exclusion methods. Uncontrolled pest problems lead to significant financial loss due to food contamination, business disruption, and stock waste. Strachan provides detailed solutions protecting your business and reputation. Strachan, #1 in pest control services.
Breakfast just got better at Wendy's. Introducing the Breakfast Piggy Bag. Enjoy a double sausage muffin with 2 square sausage patties, a freshly cracked egg, and cheese served on a toasted English muffin, a medium waffle fries, and an orange juice for only $5.25, VAT inclusive. And an apple pie for just $1 more.
Say what?
At Wendy's, better breakfast is all day. Offers valid in participating locations. Wendy's, different inside and out.
Hurricane season is here. If you're not prepared, it can really turn your life upside down. Fortunately, there's CG Atlantic General. Our people are here, ready to assist at a moment's notice, with protection like alternative accommodation for those who are displaced due to a storm. It's our priority to make sure you have what you need when you need it most. So when your life gets turned upside down, we can help to turn it around. CG Atlantic General. Good like that. Security and General Insurance Company Limited, trading as CG Atlantic General. Contact a CG Atlantic General broker today.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
You got me in love again. I used to think that I was made out of stone. I used to spend so many nights on my own. I never knew I had it in me to dance anymore. But goddamn, you got me. Somebody like you used to be.
We are back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Don Sargent on this Tuesday morning. So much happening in the news. We're going to have to pick things up later at another time. So as we get back to, but this is also a big story. What's happening with the U.S. and entry requirements as of November 8th. Here to answer all of our questions on this, answer your questions as well. We're very pleased to welcome back to the show from the U.S. Embassy here in Nassau, Daniel Durazo. Daniel, good morning. Great to have you with us.
Morning, Dwight. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. Hope you are as well.
I am. I hope that you didn't just overpromise on me being able to answer everybody's questions. I will do my very best, of course. And really, my hope is just to clarify as much as I can the new rules that are going into force on November 8th, as you said. I know that I've been in the Bahamas for over 2 years now. I know that Bahamians are often very keen to travel to the United States for the holidays, whether it's to visit family or to go holiday shopping or just to travel and take a break. So I'm hoping that we can continue to welcome Bahamian travelers to the U.S. and that they are clear on what the new rules are going to be.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Yes, Black Friday is fast approaching. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so let's talk about it. November 8th, that is Monday coming. What is going to be different?
So the basic rule and the largest change is that if you are over 18 and you're not a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident, that's an LPR or a green card holder of the United States, in order to travel to the U.S., you will need to present evidence of full vaccination and still present a negative COVID-19 test that has been taken within 3 days of travel, just as people have been doing for the past few months. Mm-hmm. And I'll say that again, this applies to any adult over age 18 who is not a U.S. citizen or not a U.S. legal permanent resident. So that will apply to the vast majority of Bahamian travelers who aren't U.S. citizens.
Right. All right. And you said this test, an antigen test, is sufficient.
That is correct. And I can sort of, I know that there's, even though that initial sort of basic rule sounds kind of simple, or at least I tried to make it sound simple, I'm sure I know that there's a lot of questions about some of the details. We've gotten a lot of those questions on our social media pages and tried to answer them. So I'll try and address some of the most common questions briefly. The first is, as you say, you are correct. A regular, or not a regular, but just an antigen test is sufficient to meet this requirement. People don't have to get a PCR test in order to meet this requirement. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier and less financially cumbersome for people. Another question that we got a lot was, is AstraZeneca going to be accepted as full vaccination? Right. And the answer to that question is yes. The vaccines that are accepted are all FDA and WHO approved vaccines. That includes AstraZeneca, which was approved by the WHO, the World Health Organization. And another detail that some people have missed is that mix and match, what's commonly known as mix and match, in other words, having received, for example, a first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine, but you got your second dose with either Pfizer or Moderna or something else, that is also accepted. So even if people have mixed their vaccine doses, that's not a problem. That'll be accepted as meeting the full vaccination requirement.
Right. Okay. Now you said 18 and over. What about people under 18? What are you required to do? Children and teens.
Yes, indeed. So for children under 18 do not have to present proof of vaccination in order to travel. And there's a few different reasons that this was incorporated into the rules. Primarily that vaccines aren't widely available for children under 18 in many countries. So the idea was to not sort of impose that burden on people who don't have access to the vaccine currently. But children aged 2 to 17 are still required to present the negative COVID test taken 3 days before travel, just like their parents who are required to be vaccinated, assuming that their parents are over the age of 18. Now, that often leads to the question, well, what about children under 2? Children under age 2 are not required to be tested, but the CDC encourages parents to test their kids, even if they are under age 2, when possible and when practical. But that will not be required of children under the age of 2. But so to repeat, children under 18 don't have to present proof of vaccination, but they do have to present a negative COVID test taken 3 days before travel, and presumably they will have taken the test along with their parents, who also have to get the negative test, even though the parents have to present proof of vaccination,
right,
or the adults in their group, as the case may be.
All right, so we're talking, and I'm thinking this is for all travelers, but somebody's asking, are there different rules for if you're entering via the sea travelers? Is it different?
The rules that I'm talking about today, and the rules that we posted on our website, the rules that were issued during the proclamation from President Biden on October 25th, apply to air travelers. We will publish the specific details for sea travel as soon as we have them. We don't have the full details on what exactly that's going to look like yet, but I know that we're waiting to get those details hopefully soon.
All right. So what do you know now? What are the requirements now? Are they different from air travelers?
I'm not 100% sure on the details. I believe that up until now, travelers by sea have had to present a negative test, just like air travelers, when they enter the country. I assume that the vaccination requirement could also apply, but I'm not 100% sure, and I don't want to speak.
Right.
I don't want to speak out of turn.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If it were me, if I'm just speaking sort of personally, if it were me, I would assume that the rules are going to be the same, just to be on the safe side. But we'll publish those details once we have them.
Sure. Okay. This is an interesting text here, and you can continue to text us, folks, 422-4796. And I don't know how you feel about it, Daniel. Would you want to take some calls too? 323-6232. 325-4316. 325.
Yeah, I'm happy to take calls and questions. Like I said, I will do my best. If I can't answer someone's question, I will do my best to find out later in the day and to publish responses on our social media page so that we can provide as much clarity as I possibly can. That really is my goal today, is just so that people walk away with this, whether they like the rules or don't like the rules. My goal is that everybody listening understands the rules as clearly as possible.
All right, that sounds good. But folks, please stick to the topic, right? So that's what we're talking about today, the travel requirements. This text
I'll
here,
appreciate that.
Right,
yes.
yeah, I'm sure. As would we.
Yeah.
If vaccinated people's immunity lasts approximately less than a year, how long will the travel embargo be against the unvaccinated? Wow, to travel to the
That's
U.S.
That's an interesting choice of terms. I would disagree with that characterization. But the rules as they are going into effect on November 8th, I don't think we have a definite timeline. My guess is that it will depend largely on how the pandemic continues to evolve. As long as we're still fighting against this pandemic, I'm guessing that these requirements will hold, but we don't have a definite timeline at the moment, as far as I know.
This text here: are you doing away with the visa interviews, or are they waived?
That's an excellent question. So this the requirement for vaccination and for the COVID test does not have anything to do with visa interviews. This is a requirement that is specifically for being able to enter the United States by air. So if you happen to have had a visa interview and you're going in for your interview after November 8th and you haven't gotten vaccinated yet, don't worry about it. If you are applying for a non-immigrant visa, that's the vast majority of visas that people apply for in the Bahamas, those are student and tourist visas. Then you don't have to present evidence of vaccination in order to conduct your visa interview. It won't affect your visa interview in any way, shape, or form. That's different than the rule for immigrant visas. People who are applying to go live permanently in the United States have been required to present proof of vaccination. I forget exactly when that went into effect, but for at least a month or so. But for non-immigrant visas, this vaccination requirement is not a part of the picture. Now, of course, you can have your visa, but you won't be able to actually enter the United States by air until you do have your proof of vaccination ready.
Okay. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good
morning,
Dwight. How are you?
Doing well.
I'm doing good.
And good morning to your guests.
Morning.
Question: how does this travel arrangement affect persons who have issues that does not allow them to take the vaccine? If you have situations where you're not able to take the vaccine and stuff, how does that affect those people?
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking it. So there are a few very limited exceptions to the new vaccination requirement. They don't apply to the vast majority of travelers, but in a case like you just described, people who are ineligible for the vaccine for a medical reason, you can apply and qualify for an exception to the requirement, and you'll need to present documentation in order to qualify for that requirement, and that will typically involve an official document or letter from a physician, from a medical professional, attesting to the fact that the traveler is unable to take the vaccine for medical reasons. And you can find more details on exactly what that looks like, sort of what the technicalities are, on the cdc.gov website. If you go to their, they have a page that talks all about the requirement for proof of COVID vaccination for air passengers, and we've linked to this page on our social media. We'll probably post a link to it again today, so that people can find that information. And if they do qualify for one of these exceptions, they can have the documentation they need in order to apply.
Okay. Thank you, caller. Appreciate it. This text here: if I'm unvaccinated and scheduled to travel November 7th, will I be okay to travel?
As far as I know, yes. The rule goes into effect at the proverbial stroke of midnight on November 8th. I think it's actually 12:01 a.m. on November 8th. So if you happen to have your travel planned for November 7th, as long as you meet the current requirements, which are the 3-day COVID-19 negative test, then you should be fine. My sense is that we try to provide a little bit of a time window for people to sort of learn about the new rules, understand the new rule before they actually go into effect. So yeah, if you happen to be traveling on November 7th, the vaccination requirement doesn't apply to you yet.
Okay. I'm not sure I understand this question here. Well, anyway, this is for you in any event. Has the U.S. adopted the Bahamas' travel visa model that requires its citizens returning from a foreign country to prepay for COVID tests to be taken a few days after returning?
I don't believe so. As far as I know, that's as long as you meet the requirements to enter the country that your destination country and then get tested again on the way back, then I don't think you need to prepay or use the kind of model that I think was used here under the travel health visa.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this text here, I don't know.
Dwight, you're really building up the suspense with some of these questions. You're like, oh, I don't know about this question.
This is an opinion. This is not really a question. But anyway,
I see.
They're saying, bye, USA, as in goodbye. See you when this ridiculous vaccine mandate is dropped. Proof that this mandate is ridiculous is that the vaccinated are still required to present a negative COVID test to travel. Absolute foolishness.
I actually, if I could, I actually would like to just speak briefly to that comment. And I think it speaks to some of the stuff that we've seen on social media and elsewhere, which is this idea that, why am I getting vaccinated if I still need to get a negative test? Or some people sort of phrase the question as, well, why do I need to get vaccinated if I can still get sick? Or if potentially I can still transmit, the disease to others? And with the usual caveats that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but my understanding of the science so far is that the reason the vaccine is so important and has been, if you look at the statistics, so key to pushing back against the pandemic in so many places is that the vaccine, even though it doesn't offer 100% protection against what are known in the scientific community as breakthrough infections, that's when you get COVID even though you are vaccinated. Even though the vaccine, doesn't prevent you from getting COVID 100%, it so greatly reduces the chances of you getting COVID that it's still extraordinarily powerful weapon against the pandemic, especially when it's done on a widespread basis. And it also greatly reduces the chance of transmitting the infection, of contagion, of being contagious to others. So in my mind, the reason to get vaccinated when it comes to your own health is the reason that you wear a seatbelt. If you wear a seatbelt and you are driving around, it's not going to 100% prevent you from getting into an accident. But if you do get into an accident, your injuries are going to be so much less severe. You're so much less likely to die, so much less likely to end up in the hospital by wearing your seatbelt. And that's why you wear it. And the vaccine is similar when it comes to your own health. It's not going to prevent you from getting sick, but it can be very powerful in reducing the chances of you getting a severe illness, of ending up in the hospital, and of dying. And when it comes to sort of protecting others, in my mind, getting vaccinated is just like, driving, being a safe driver and keeping your car in good shape, keeping your brakes in good shape, keeping your steering in good shape, your suspension, all of those things, they're not going to 100% prevent accidents, but they are going to reduce the chances of an accident and likely reduce the chances of a serious accident. And that's why, in my mind, the vaccine, or that's how I sort of understand the vaccine in my non-scientific scientific kind of explanation of it to myself and to others. when it comes to why it's so important.
Right.
I don't know if that addresses the text's concerns, but that just reminded me of that kind of metaphor that I've heard used to sort of describe why the vaccine is so powerful.
Daniel, to many of us it does, but I'm sure the texter probably not. But continue to call in 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Here's a text. Please ask if the rule applies to the naturally immune since they are as protected as the vaccinated.
I do believe that there is an exception for those who can demonstrate that they have acquired immunity to the disease from having had COVID, but there's some very sort of, again, kind of technical aspects to that. I highly encourage people to go to the CDC website. Although I am looking at, it says, what if I have, so I'm reading from the CDC website now. What if I have tested positive for COVID-19 antibodies? Do I still need proof of vaccination? And the answer is yes, you still need proof of vaccination. Actually, at this time, all non-citizen, non-immigrant air passengers traveling to the United States, regardless of antibody status, are required to provide proof of COVID-19 vaccination. So my apologies for having misspoken initially.
Yeah.
I was incorrect. The rule is, yes, you need to present proof of vaccination even if you have antibodies from having acquired the disease earlier.
Right. Okay. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on Morning Blend.
Yes, good morning, and I appreciate all the information coming through. I have a friend, a U.S. citizen, and she wants to visit the Bahamas for the first time. But she was asking me what are the requirements for U.S. citizens coming to the Bahamas. Can he shed a light on U.S. citizens visiting the Bahamas? What are their requirements, COVID-19 requirements? And what is the requirement for them to return when they're leaving the Bahamas to go back? I'll listen. Hang up and listen. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question, and that's I'm glad that you brought it up because I hadn't sort of had a chance to get around to it. I don't want to speak to the requirements for U.S. citizens entering the Bahamas. That's a question for the Bahamian government. I don't think the rules have changed. I think it's still also you need to present a negative COVID test and submit for a health travel visa online.
Right.
But I know that changes regularly. But I can speak to the requirements for U.S. citizens to return to the United States once they've been in the Bahamas. And the rules for U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents are also changing slightly. Specifically, they're sort of tightening the requirements on U.S. citizens and LPRs as well in the following way. Vaccinated U.S. citizens and LPRs, so if you're a U.S. citizen or an LPR and you are vaccinated, you have proof of vaccination, then nothing is changing for you. You can still travel with just a 3-day negative COVID test, and you will have to present that test as well as your evidence of vaccination, which sort of qualifies you to use the 3-day test. However, if you are an unvaccinated U.S. citizen or LPR, then the rules are changing for you slightly. Instead of traveling with a 3-day negative COVID test, you will have to present a negative COVID test that was taken no more than 1 day before you travel. So it tightens that requirement a bit if you are unvaccinated.
Okay. All right.
So I hope that answers your question. That brings up another interesting question, though, Dwight, if I could,
Sure.
that people have asked us a couple of times, and that is, well, how does that affect children who don't need to be vaccinated in order to travel regardless, children under the age of 18, but if their parents are taking a 1-day negative test, do they then still present the 3-day negative test? Like, how does that work? My understanding is that if you are a U.S. citizen under the age of 18 and you are traveling and you are unvaccinated, you will have to present the negative COVID test under the rule that applies to the adults you're traveling with. So if you're traveling with parents who are, or other adults who are vaccinated, and you're a U.S. citizen minor, then you'll be able to take the 3-day test. However, if you are under the age of 18 and you are traveling with adults who are not vaccinated, and the adults that you're traveling with have to take the 1-day test, then you will also have to take the 1-day test as well, if you are under 18. And if for minors that are traveling alone, I want to double check before I give that response, so I'll hold on that one. But that's sort of how it applies to minors who are traveling with other adults.
Okay. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. Your Morning Blend.
Yes, good morning, Dwight. I have a question for your guest. Is there a list of conditions that the physician would provide in a documented letter that would exempt one from devaccination to enter the U.S., right? And another question is, are you aware that the CDC, from 2009, they started to change the definition of what is a pandemic, what is a vaccine, what is herd immunity, and now they've turned to a euphemistic term for gain of function by calling it enhanced pathogenic potential pandemic pathogens. Research. Are you aware, and why is that?
Okay. Well, I don't know if you want to answer the second part, but the first part.
I can't quite speak to the second part. I'm not sure what the gentleman was referring to, but in terms of that first part, as I mentioned earlier, there's sort of quite a few sort of technical aspects to presenting documentation that shows that you are medically exempt from the vaccination requirement. And rather than try and get into those weeds, I just recommend that people go to cdc.gov and look for the requirement for proof of COVID-19 vaccination for air passengers page. And if you scroll down that page, you'll eventually arrive at a frequently asked questions section that covers the exceptions to the vaccination requirement, and that's where you can find some of the details on sort of what you need to present in order to show that you are medically exempt from the vaccination requirement. And that reminds me of one other thing I wanted to mention, Dwight, which is that just like the testing requirement thus far, the review of these documents, the review of your negative COVID test, the review of your proof of vaccination, is the responsibility of the airline. So you will present this at sort of typically you'll present it at the ticketing counter when you check in. Some airlines have apps where you can sort of load everything up into the app and do it electronically if you're doing if you're checking in ahead of time, and then typically also checked one more time at the gate. So that's just to clarify that once again, as I mentioned earlier, this requirement has nothing to do with your visa interview at the embassy, and it has nothing to do with going through Customs and Border Protection through pre-clearance. Those interactions will not sort of be a part of of checking for the negative COVID test or the vaccine. This is all being carried out by the airlines, just like the testing requirement has been done so far.
All right. Here's a text here. What's the position if fully vaccinated and taking a connecting flight through the U.S. to return home to the Bahamas from an EU country?
I believe just like the testing requirement and just like visa requirements, the vaccination requirement and the testing requirements still apply. In order to transit through the United States, whether you are actually staying in the U.S. or just transiting through, you need to meet all the same requirements.
And if you are just transiting through and you're unvaccinated, that will apply to you as well, right?
That's correct. In other words, if you are unvaccinated, you will not be able to transit through the United States until you can present proof of vaccination, or unless you qualify for one of these other exceptions, as far as I understand it.
Yeah. Wow. Private planes. Someone's asking about that. These rules apply to no matter what. And if you're air travel, you're traveling through the United States on air, these rules will apply to you whether it's a commercial airline or private.
That is correct. Having never flown on a private plane myself, I'm not sure exactly sort of how that works. Obviously, you're not sort of checking in at a regular check-in counter with the airline. So I'm not sure sort of what that actually looks like logistically, but my understanding is that however sort of that logistically takes place, still have to present proof of vaccination, and you have to present your COVID test even if you're flying on a private plane. Lucky caller if they're asking about, well, what about private planes?
Hey, I tell you. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning again. I have two more questions for the gentleman. I just spoke about the U.S. citizen traveling to the Bahamas, and I appreciate your response. I wanted to find out, he said the U.S. citizen returning from the Bahamas would need to do a COVID-19 test. I just wanted to be clear, which test? Would it be the PCR test or the antigen test?
Still an antigen test. An antigen test satisfies all of the testing requirements under these requirements, whether it's the 3-day test or the 1-day test. An antigen test is sufficient to demonstrate your or to meet the requirements. Sorry.
Okay, and my last question. There used to be, I don't know if they still do it now, when you're traveling, you have to complete a attestation form at the airport or do it before you reach the airport. Is that a requirement for both U.S. citizens returning to the U.S., and is it also a requirement for Bahamians traveling to the U.S.?
As this, I think, just to be clear that I understand what you're talking about, is this sort of a form that you sign when you check into your flight to sort of attest to the fact that you've gotten tested, et cetera?
Yes, something like that,
I believe that particular sort of, I don't know what you call that form or that mechanism is maybe specific to the airlines. Okay. So if the airlines are doing that, I'm not sure how sort of they apply that rule. All I can really speak to is when you're going to travel, be sure to have your proof of vaccination. I haven't actually talked about what that looks like. So proof of vaccination means that you have either the physical printed card, issued or signed by a medical authority that certifies that you have been vaccinated. And it should, of course, have your name and date of birth that will match an official ID.
Okay.
Exactly.
And while you're saying that, sir, the last question, sorry, this is now the last one. So if you're traveling to the U.S. before the 8th, you don't have to have that fully vaccination as yet. But you have to have it by the 8th.
Yep, exactly. If your flight to the United States is before November 8th, in other words, on as late as November 7th, then you still don't have to present proof of vaccination. You do still have to present the negative COVID test, which will continue to be the case after the 8th, but the vaccination requirement only goes into effect on November 8th.
All right. I want to allow you to get back to the card and which card we're talking about here, a proof of vaccination card. Yeah.
Sure.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, as I was saying, the printed card, or it can be an image of the card, or it can be the sort of a scan of the card that has been uploaded to some of the airlines have apps that you can use to upload some of these documents. So in other words, the airlines, and this is another thing that I wanted to emphasize to your listeners, is as November 8th approaches, my first stop would be the airline, would be to call the airline or email the airline and ask them, hey, I'm traveling after November 8th. What do I need to do in order to present my proof of vaccination to you, the airline? Because the airlines are the ones who are going to be reviewing these documents. So if it were me traveling, I would double check with the airline to make sure that I'm presenting the documentation that they're prepared to accept.
Okay, so a lot of us have, we all got the yellow vaccination cards when we got vaccinated, but a lot of people got special credit card size cards with something that can be scanned to show your proof of vaccination. As far as you know, that would be accepted? You can scan it and it leads to the website that shows the types of vaccines that you got.
Yeah, so this is another instance where definitely check in with the airline. But if you go to cdc.gov, as I've been mentioning earlier, it says here, there's a section that says acceptable proof of COVID-19 vaccination. And they have verifiable, they sort of have three categories. There's verifiable records, either digital or paper, that come with a QR code and can be scanned. It looks like these verifiable records are typically issued in the UK and in the European Union. There's also non-verifiable paper records, which is a printout of the COVID-19 vaccination record or COVID-19 vaccination certificate issued at the national or sub-national level. This would include this yellow vaccination card that a lot of folks in the Bahamas have that sort of shows their proof of vaccination. And then there's non-verifiable digital records, which is just a digital photo of your vaccination card or record, or a downloaded vaccine record or vaccination certificate from some kind of official source, from a public health agency or government agency, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We need to take a break. When we come back, Daniel, you might as well stick around for that. We're doing a drawing of the Bahamas COVID vaccination raffle. We're going to do that in a second. And this is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. We'll be back after the news headlines.
Thanks, Dwight.
Best rate, no debate. Best rate, no debate.
BTC gives more savings on the best fiber internet. It's super fast with super savings in every package. Compare and see for yourself. Enjoy up to 150 megabits per second plus 157 TV channels and unlimited home phone minutes for only $99.99.
Best rate, no debate.
Visit a BTC store to sign up for the best internet experience on the Bahamas' best fiber network. Conditions apply.
Experience holiday shopping joy with an RBC Rewards Visa Platinum credit card. Apply by December 31st and receive 20,000 welcome points. Enjoy multiple ways to redeem your RBC Rewards, including My Way Travel Credit, Cashback Credit, gift cards, and much more. Apply today at your nearest branch or rbc.com/Caribbean/Visa Rewards and experience holiday joy with RBC. Conditions apply.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
And we're back here with Morning Blend, and Dwight Strong with you, and we're talking with Daniel Durazo with the U.S. Embassy in Nassau, and it's time for the Bahamas COVID vaccination raffle drawing for today. Daniel, this is a great initiative that the U.S. Embassy is spearheading. How is it going? Give us an update on that really quickly.
It's going really well. Thousands of people have signed up for the raffle. I know that you have been diligently announcing the winners for... I think, what has it been? A couple months now. I think we started in September, right?
I believe so. Yes. It's
and a lot of happy winners. Hopefully, a lot of folks for whom the raffle was that one extra little push that they needed in order to finally decide to get the vaccine. And I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure working with you, Dwight, to work with you together on encouraging people to get vaccinated. You see still see a lot of skepticism and folks who are hesitant on social media, but the fact remains that I think we hit this grim milestone over the weekend that over 5 million people now around the world have died from COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic, and that's the official number. From what I've read, the real number is probably higher.
Yeah.
And that's why we are so passionate about this campaign, and just finding as many incentives, as many ways as we possibly can to encourage people to just, you hear this a lot among skeptics, do your own research. I encourage people to do their research, and to remember that, scientists are scientists for a reason, and the science is pretty clear. The statistics are pretty clear. The vaccination, widespread vaccination, is the path towards economic recovery. It's the path towards some semblance of a return to normality. And I'm just really encouraged by the fact that a lot of people have decided to join the raffle. A lot of people are getting vaccinated. I think you guys were talking before I came on about the fact that numbers continue to trend upwards in the Bahamas and lots of other places around the world. So yeah, just really happy to be a part of that.
So how much longer are we going to be doing this?
I think we're going to keep going as long as we continue to receive prizes to keep funding the vaccine. I know that we have enough to at least go. I don't want to make too many promises, but I think we have enough to keep going for the rest of the month at the very least. Okay. And we'll keep going for longer if we can, and just continue, to encourage people to get vaccinated. And I think what's been helpful about the raffle too is it just, I don't know, at least in my mind, it helps people sort of see vaccination as something that can be fun. It doesn't have to be something that, is scary or strange, or that somebody's imposing on you. It's, it can be a reason to celebrate with others, a reason to sort of to be glad for vaccination instead of scared or skeptical.
Absolutely. And these prizes today that we're giving away will definitely help with that. So we've got two great prizes. We've got a gift basket of wine, chocolate, and cigars from Grey Cliff. That will be amazing today. And the second prize is CWS Landshark beer and gift pack. Aye. So good time to be had for both the winners today. All right, let's give away that CWS Landshark beer and gift pack. First, the winner for that wonderful prize this morning is Tara Woodside. Tara Woodside. You've won that CWS Landshark beer and gift pack. Congratulations to Tara Woodside. Great stuff there. It really sounds like a lot of fun. All right. And then the gift basket of wine, chocolate, and cigars from Grey Cliff. It's going to be amazing. The winner is Keva Wallace. Keva Wallace. You've won that. Congratulations, Keva Wallace. You won that gift basket of wine, chocolate, and cigars from Grey Cliff. Congratulations to all of our winners today. And I could be calling your name tomorrow morning or Thursday or Friday or next week, every day. All you have to do is register vaxbahamas.com. If you are fully vaccinated, partially vaccinated, just go on there, register, and you could be a winner in the Bahamas COVID vaccination raffle. And Daniel Durazzo, thank you so much for being with us this morning. I have another question here, and we've got 30 seconds for you to answer this one. This one has nothing to do with the vaccine, but they're just asking, why is the new U.S. embassy in the Bahamas so big, and when will we get an ambassador?
I am always prepared to answer that particular question. We still don't have a firm timeline on when we're getting an ambassador, but in terms of why the new embassy is so big, I don't know. I think, to me, that's just a representation of just how important the relationship between the U.S. and the Bahamas is. You're one of our closest neighbors, our third border, really have had a really close, enduring friendship and partnership for as long as the Bahamas has been independent. And of course, the historical and cultural connections go back way further than that. I believe that the original consulate in Eleuthera, that the site there's like a marker there from, was it 1798 perhaps? I mean, that's a long time ago. So that relationship is really, really strong and valuable to the United States. And I think that, this new embassy, I don't think the size necessarily has anything to do with it, but the fact that the building is being built and that it is, a brand new building right in the heart of downtown Nassau, I think speaks to the importance of that relationship.
Okay.
And I'm just sorry that I won't get to see that building finished. I'll be departing the Bahamas before the building is done, but I hope I can come back and see that building once it's finally finished.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Hope so. All right, Daniel Durazzo, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dwight. Have a good one.
All right. We're going to take a break and be back. We're going to be talking with the British High Commissioner about COP26 and the environment and climate change and more. Stay with us. This is Morning Blend. That's coming from Morning Blend Business right after this.
Come on now.
Technology makes every day in life just a little bit easier. Whether it's for joy, productivity, or creativity, Custom Computers has all the latest gadgets to conquer any obstacle. Imagine automating mundane tech and living a freer, richer lifestyle, all while staying on top of your goals. The path to freedom could fit in the palm of your hand. Discover tomorrow's technology today at Custom Computers on Patton Street, Cable Beach, and Dave's Village through the Blake Road entrance.
People helping people to help themselves.
All right, watch this. Credit Union of the Bahamas. Drop card ain't got nothing on them. There's the plug.
People helping people themselves.
Don't believe me? Join the credit union and watch your money grow like Chef and Needle.
Credit unions are smart. Higher rates on your savings.
Yeah, go join one.
Credit unions are smarter choice. More money you make.
More what?
Credit unions are smarter choice. Higher rates on your savings.
Let me get my money there.
Credit unions are smarter choice. More money you make.
Join
a credit union. Watch your savings grow with higher interest rates. Become a member and purchase some shares. Then ownership is coming your way. They are local banking members. The owner, personalized service. Come and join the credit union, and your choice will be the smartest. I girl now. It's a smarter choice. Higher rates on your savings.
Beulah gal, can you believe this? We are now the patrol queens of the neighborhood. We now large and in charge. So we need to check out what's going on in everybody's yard. What about that gun that we know that Junior and his homeboys just ran out? Can we report that too? Of course we can. But we could be trouble if they find out. We need to report what we see, Beulah. When you call Crime Stoppers, they just answer your call in Miami. So then we can report everything? Hiding the drugs, who shoot who part of which gang, or who disturbing the peace with the loud music and the motorcycles. Then our neighborhood will be the best in the Bahamas. Come live here. And then our house price will go up, gal. So what we waiting on? What's the number?
If you see something, say something. Let us all pitch in. It's your time. Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands. Or text us. Stop the crime before it's your time.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk.
The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. This morning we're talking about climate change and the environment and the big conference that's going on in Glasgow and Scotland, COP26. Very pleased to have back with us. It's been a few months. British High Commissioner Sarah Dixon, welcome. Great to have you with us as always.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
We were talking off air about what you've been up to since we last spoke, which was, I think, earlier this year.
Yeah, that's right. So I do feel like the restrictions are being relaxed a bit. Mm-hmm. And so I have taken the opportunity to get around the islands when that became more flexible. I mean, I mean, I love New Providence. I live in Nassau, but actually the Bahamas is much more than that. So
indeed,
the ability to get to some other islands has been a real joy, real pleasure. And I won't name a favorite if you put me on the spot. But
why not? Because I can do it. We'd love to. What's your top three?
So what I think is amazing about the islands, and I will call out a few that I've visited, is actually how different they are. So the last one I went to most recently was Grand Bahama. And that industrial side of Freeport, but also the Lucayan National Park and that kind of gold rock beach. Just amazing, stunning. Eleuthera is so varied. If you go top, Spanish Wells to bottom, South Eleuthera and Lighthouse Point, totally different across the island.
It's astounding.
Loads to do. Long Island, I mean, the Blue Hole is pretty special. It's one of the wonders of the world, right? And there we had some great food. We met some really friendly people. And you've got that Atlantic coast, which brings a bit of an, kind of different dynamic to going to the beach. Went to Andros, did some scuba.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful reef. So I managed to get around a little bit and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's all beautiful and all amazing. And that's what we're talking about today, that is all in danger, right? With the changes that are happening globally, climate change putting all of this in jeopardy, and why so many are advocating for us to take action now at COP26 in Glasgow. Let's talk about that. What we're hoping to come out of this. I mean, there's some timelines being set, and there were some before with the Paris Agreement before. But how optimistic are we that the world will stick to these and we'll be able to accomplish these goals before it's too late for countries like the Bahamas?
Well, that's right. And they do talk about keeping 1.5 alive. And for those listeners who don't know, the objective of Paris was to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees. And in order to do that, every country in the world has to reduce its emissions so that greenhouse gases reduce and that kind of raise in climate temperature doesn't happen. And one of the things that we'll be doing in Glasgow is trying to make sure that all those contributions by the countries around the world to reducing emissions is actually met. So there's a real focus on what's called global net zero, so that your country says at some point it will no longer be, polluting the atmosphere in a way that creates greenhouse gases. And the countries have been announcing those commitments at this conference. There's also, I think, a recognition that climate change is already with us. And in the Bahamas, people know that better than many countries, particularly with the impact of Hurricane Dorian. So the other point of the conference is to talk about practical things, what's known in the parlance as adaptation and mitigation. So if we're going to experience more extreme weather, what are we going to do about that? So things like planting trees, looking after the mangroves, making sure that the coastline is in good shape, removing plastic from the ocean. So just adapting as well our lifestyles. So recycling more, maybe driving in zero-emission vehicles, electric cars, maybe walking more or taking public transport, the sorts of things that mean that us in our daily lives can support that adaptation that's required. And then in some case, it may involve moving house or, doing something really different. But in every country and for every community, that adaptation is going to be different.
Right.
And it's going to cost money. So the third thing is mobilizing the cash, making sure that the finance commitment of 100 billion per year is met by the developed countries so that the vulnerable climate countries can make those adaptations that are needed.
Right.
And then the last thing is you mentioned Paris and the rule book. It's finalizing some of that stuff, which is also relevant for the Bahamas. Actually, you're not a net emitter. You actually have got quite a lot of good green space, and you could be the recipient of money for what's known as carbon credits. We can talk about that in a bit more detail. But things like that, more technical stuff around turning the Paris rule book into practical measures as well.
Right. All right, so let's talk about that because we've seen that before. And we're expecting that today from our prime minister. But a lot of the countries like the Bahamas, the small ones, are saying, it's not really us. You big countries have to change because we're the ones in the most vulnerable, definitely. Is that working? Are the countries recognizing this and concerned? Is it just talk? Or are people really worried that places like the Bahamas could be wiped off the map, literally?
I think there's a balance in this. And the balance I would strike is between sounding the alarm. There are vulnerable countries that need help, that will be impacted by extreme weather, that are really suffering from climate change. And then also having the balance of hope. So the fact is that we can do things, and then driving by sounding the alarm, that action from countries, people, organizations, businesses that need to change the way they operate. And so that the pressure that's put upon the countries actually then results in some action, that actually commitments are made on things like deforestation, on things like recycling, on things like, the change from fossil fuel intensive energy to more green energy. And that's something I think you've seen in the government's manifesto here as a promise, or a reiteration of a promise to have a higher percentage of renewable energy rather than fossil fuel energy.
Right. I don't know if you can answer this, but we saw this yesterday with a panel that they had. The Minister of Environment, or a state minister, was asked about it, about drilling here, and how we can even be considering that when we know, as you mentioned, fossil fuels and the impact that's having, and what you said earlier about taking an active role, zero emissions vehicles, walking more, planting more trees. Are other countries looking at what we are doing or not doing here and questioning whether we are serious about this when we're not exactly, in some regards, practicing what we're preaching, yet we're calling on the rest of the world to act? How much of an impact does that have on getting things done?
So what I think is amazing about Glasgow, which is the first in-person meeting since the pandemic, and we were really keen as the host to make it in person, is that's where you have the conversations. That's where the people who run the countries of the world get together and talk about what they're doing. And I would say for some of the small island states, I actually call the Bahamas a bit more of a big ocean nation, because you've got more ocean than island in some way.
Right.
But it's where you can talk about, well, what practical measures am I doing? How can I work on those issues? And what are other people doing in my neighborhood or across the globe? You know, perhaps your comparator would be more in another part of the world. And how do we manage those things? I think what Minister of State McIntosh said, I've got some respect for as a civil servant, which is they've only been in government for a few short weeks. It's coming up for a couple of months, I think. So if they haven't taken total decisions on some of these things and they're a reviewing process, I think that's fine. I think the pressure is on, though, through meetings like this, to quite quickly be making decisions and making announcements. And I know that our government has done quite a lot to talk about its plans for net zero. So we'll be looking for all countries, including the Bahamas, to be making similar announcements over the course of our presidency this year.
Well, you talked about planting trees. I saw that you took part in an initiative a few days ago. Tell us about that and who all was involved in that.
Yeah, so there's an area in Fox Hill which the East Nassau Rotary Club has been trying to help regenerate, and with the First Lady, Anne-Marie Davis, with Fred Mitchell, who's the MP for Fox Hill, with Clay Sweeting, who's the Minister of Agriculture, and with Basil McIntosh, the Minister of State for Environment, who's in Glasgow. We got together with the Bahamian National Trust to plant fruit trees. And those fruit trees, the idea is that everybody can plant something and then live from the earth, use it as an area of shade, and also this, a way of providing food. I think during the pandemic, I've heard more than ever before about the problems if you don't have enough food within your own country, about supply chains and importing. And actually, I know in my own garden I have avocados and mangoes and things like that you can use to supplement your diet. And in areas like Fox Hill, there's less green space maybe, and creating that fruit forest is really important. Plus, it helps the environment more generally.
Yeah.
Trees are amazing at sucking up that carbon that's causing us trouble.
Absolutely. So there are other countries where you were passing the shovel around, is that right?
That's right. So it was a relay, and across the Caribbean, we passed the shovel. So my colleague in Trinidad and Tobago passed the shovel to me, and then we passed it on to Dominican Republic. And I know Mia Motley, who made a speech yesterday at COP26, helped dig the tree in Barbados, because actually this is all of us.
Yeah.
This isn't one country. This is everybody's got to do something. So we tried to make that point that joining up with your neighborhood's also a really great way of doing it.
Yeah. So what did you plant? What type of tree?
Breadfruit.
Oh, okay. That's. Do you like breadfruit?
I think if then makes it terribly unhealthy. I think if it's fried,
Right.
I quite like it.
Yeah, that's what is the best.
Roasted
Roasted and fried.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty good
Definitely,
then. Yeah.
definitely. We don't have breadfruit, of course, grown in my backyard in the UK. It's a bit more kind of apples and pears, but yes, it's a great fruit. And in fact, we planted a few different things like cocoa plum and things like that as well.
Yeah. So what else can we do as individuals in this fight against what's happening with our climate, with the globe? What can we do?
So there's lots of things that people can do. One I already mentioned, which is about how you move around. So the more you can walk, cycle, take public transport, or if you are using a vehicle, make sure it's a zero or low emission vehicle. That can make a big difference to your personal contribution in the kind of transport sector. There's also things we can do in our daily lives. So use less packaging. Take your shopping bags to the shops. We've all been getting used to that in the past year or so. Eat less meat. Meat is very carbon intensive. Vegetables less so, and plants less so.
It's going to be tricky for a lot of people.
One thing that they encourage is perhaps have one day a week where you don't eat.
Meatless Monday or
Meatless
something.
Monday,
Like that.
exactly. I mean, don't rule it out completely, or reduce the kind of portion size. So don't. It's not that you have to stop completely with all of this and live some terrible life. It's just about protecting the planet a bit more and realizing our impact, and then managing your own waste. So I know that we go to the MPCC and drop off our cans, and there's a program called Cans for Kids. I think they take certain kinds of plastics as well. My kids' school takes bottles for recycling. So things like that can really make a difference.
Yeah. Now, a lot of these are going to cost money. You mentioned money before. Even to change a vehicle, often the electrics or even the hybrids cost a little bit more. Recycling, initially, it costs a bit to set up a program like that. Let's talk about that. And if there is assistance from maybe the bigger countries for implementing programs like this.
Yeah, so I did mention what my Prime Minister calls the cash. You do need money to do a lot of this adaptation, and how it will look in the Bahamas is really more of a question for the Bahamian government. But from my government's perspective, I know we doubled the finance we were offering under the kind of international financing mechanisms to 11.6 billion minimum. So, even more than that, depending on what's needed. And that will be focused on this adaptation that's required. And grants will be available in different ways, including to the Bahamas. I know the Bahamas has been successful in grants from regional bodies that support climate adaptation measures. They've got all kinds of acronyms. There's one that's called something like the 5 Cs, based in Belize. And I can never remember what all the C's are for, but they're for things like climate change in Caribbean, right? C.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, it is absolutely part of our presidency priorities to make sure that governments in developing countries increase their offer so we hit that 100 billion target.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of those targets that we're looking at. 2030, we heard many of the countries agreed, was that today, to agree 2030 target to reduce deforestation, if not completely end it. That's very close. That's very close. How realistic are these?
So this is the correct question, and it goes to what you said at the beginning about talk versus action.
Right.
And I think this is where that alarm bell sounding and that pressure comes in, is to make sure that people aren't committing to things and then not doing them. I do think the pandemic in some ways helped and hurt because people were moving around less, people were littering less and polluting less. But at the same time, if you were trying to do something active, like reforest or plant mangroves, it was really hard to do. So there is both some catch-up and some benefit from the pandemic. And this is where what's known as the nationally defined contributions come in and the adaptation commitments. So every country should then say how it's going to do this. What are the steps it will take to achieve net zero or whatever it is it's promising to achieve. I know in the government's manifesto here there was a part of it about in the blueprint about deforestation and land use. And I've heard Minister Mitchell talking before about how you've actually got pine islands, that the Bahamas isn't necessarily known for its forest, but there are islands which are really very forested.
Yeah.
And protecting
the northern Bahamas,
and protecting that's super important.
Yeah, including this one, although we don't have much of it left.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to be very concerned about the logging that happens. Do you feel, I know this is, again, another one that I don't know if you can answer it or would want to, but do you get the sense that the average person here, but in the world, is paying attention to this? Or are they more focused on other serious issues in their lives, like the pandemic?
I think that's a good question, and it probably provokes one of those "it depends" kinds of answers. I think if you live from the land and the sea, you've probably noticed how you need to be more sustainable in that use of the land and the sea, so that it is, so that fishing stocks aren't depleted, so that water isn't polluted and the fish are dying, so that the land that you're using is fertile and able to be cultivated. And I think as well, younger people seem to be being taught in schools in a way I never was when I was a kid, about how important protecting the planet is and how your lifestyle impacts the planet. And I think perhaps the younger generation is much more alert to these problems than perhaps I was when I was a kid. And I think businesses, because a lot of this actually needs to be done by businesses rather than government as well. I think businesses are starting to realize that they can actually turn a profit by being more eco-friendly, more green, providing access to products, whether it's vegetarian food or more eco-friendly clothing or items. Actually, they're finding that by being kinder to the planet, they can also make a profit. And I think this is where it comes together. We need to live on this planet. It's all about people at the end and people being able to live without extreme weather and without problems. And contributing to that, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Does everybody realize that? Probably not. It probably depends a bit what your lifestyle's like and whether you feel like it impacts your world. But I think the more we have conferences like this, the more we talk about it on shows like yours, hopefully the more people will realize they can play a part and it shouldn't cause them too many difficulties to do so.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by the Director of the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection, Rochelle Newbold, who is in Glasgow right now, and she's going to be joining us live via Zoom. And we'll get to that in just a bit. We've been talking with, you're going to stick around with us, right?
Yes.
British High Commissioner Sarah Dixon. And we'll be back with more Morning Blend Business here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
What happened to you? You look like you lost your paycheck.
Man, I just realized I got scammed out of a bunch of money. They said I won this contest and just needed me to send them some money so I could collect. I mean, to expedite something. Or was it to smooth the process?
Man, you're smarter than that. Protect yourself against scams and fraud by following these tips. If you know you didn't enter a competition, you can't win. Never pay to receive a cash prize. If you're being asked, you're being scammed. Check trusted internet sites for verification of information given to you. Do not give your banking details to people you don't know. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Monitor your bank account regularly for any questionable transactions. Get more information at getmoneysmartbahamas.com.
This traffic report is brought to you by Shield Insurance and Prudential Losses.
Final moments of our traffic watch now, and that assistance to Samalabala Highway seems to be working because the delays along that thoroughfare right now are minimal compared to what they normally would be, even though there is some holdup on Tony's $20 West Lane, allowing some of that traffic to get out of there. But both thoroughfares should clear pretty quickly. Same thing is happening over there on Gladstone Road. The backup has decreased significantly, and those folks are getting under there too. Carmichael Road, slightly bit lengthier challenge, but they're doing what they normally do, which is get out of Carmichael Road onto Blue Hill Road and eventually over the hill into the Tony's $1 million roundabout below. As for the remainder of the island, Prince Charles Drive now got really busy. Slow down from about Seabreeze all the way into the Soldier Road intersection and on to the East-West Highway and Marathon traffic light. You would expect Marathon Road totally bumper to bumper all the way into Wolf Road at this point. Soldier Road traffic leading into that Wolf Road, Village, and Vernon Road intersection is quite busy at this time. And Vernon Road still has hefty traffic lines attempting to leave there to get out to the main intersection of Wolf Road as well. And the Eastern Road still a bit slow with that traffic that's leaving there to get on to Shirley Street. Elsewhere in the city, you can see the gradual rise in traffic for today. Minor congestions, but certainly a buildup of the traffic, and I know delays are going to happen as the morning continues. This National Traffic Report, a service of Dr. Danny Johnson Associates at Foot and Ankle International, who's offering the simplest and safest treatment for foot injuries, ingrown toenails, corns, heel pain, and more. You can visit Foot and Ankle International for relief. They're located at Dean's Lane atop the hill at Fort Charlotte. Call them at 322-5402. With your Riders Guy look at traffic in real time, I'm Pierre Double N.
Michael was in a horrible car accident. Prudential Loss Adjusters managed his claim and got him the settlement he deserved. Sierra's roof received hurricane damage. Thanks to Prudential, she and her kids are happy with their claim settlement. Tammy fractured her ankle in a slip and fall. Prudential saved her time, money, and peace of mind. Prudential Loss Adjusters are here for you whenever a tragedy strikes. Call 322-4026 now.
Protect the things that really matter to you. Shield Insurance is the insurance company that grows with you to meet your insurance needs through this beautiful adventure we call life. From automobile to home to life and health, boat, liability, construction, and business insurance, Shield has affordable policies, flexible options, friendly service, and the expertise to protect your hard-earned assets. Shield Insurance agents and brokers in Nassau, call 356-7202 or Freeport 352-5945.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
It's time for your morning business report brought to you by CFAL. Despite criticism that the government's plan to reduce value-added tax from 12% to 10% result in lower revenue intake, Central Bank Governor John Roll confirming that based on his understanding, there would likely be potential gains. The Davis administration acquired modeling from independent advisors before it landed on a scenario in which it believes the government could grow the economy while lessening the burden on taxpayers. Under a scenario in which the government settled tax revenue would grow by 13.5%, real GDP would increase by 12.21% in 2022, employment would increase by 8.41%, and poverty levels as a percentage of the population would decrease by 8.03%. You can read more about what Governor Roll is saying in today's Guardian Business section. Meanwhile, the central bank's monthly economic and financial development report for September revealing that tourism sustained a slow pace of recovery in September, explaining that COVID-19 travel restrictions continue to temper the pace of tourism's return to pre-pandemic levels. According to the report, data from the Ministry of Tourism shows that total visitor arrivals in August were 189,823 compared to 5,385 in August 2020. Central Bank is in the final stages of establishing an online registry for movable collateral, which would allow borrowers to use more of their assets other than real estate or fixed assets to secure credit. The announcement coming as the central bank reported a 25% increase in loan applications to domestic banks in the first half of the year. And BPL maintaining that its rate reduction bond would have been non-recourse financing. Statement coming a week after Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Philip Davis said that the rate reduction bond would result in a 20% increase in electricity due to the delays in the bond offering, which BPL officials had hoped would have happened before the end of the year. In your Market Watch, recapping trading on the BISX from Monday's benchmark moving 1,000, unchanged at 170. Bahamas Property Fund moving 5,000, up 19 cents to $6. Focall moving 7,500, unchanged at $4. Consolidated Water up 4 cents to $2.26. Emira Incorporated unchanged at $11.36. The BISX All Share Index closing at 2,085.09, up 0.21. That's your Market Watch, and that is your morning business report brought to you by CFAL, growing well for future generations.
What does Christmas mean to you? What about making a loved one's face smile bright or driving your own car? CIBC First Caribbean gives you up to 100% financing on auto loans. Apply online and let our auto financing take you places this Christmas. Visit CIBCFCIB.com for more information. Terms and conditions apply.
And we are back here with Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strong with you. I'm talking with British High Commissioner Sarah Dixon. We are trying to connect with Director of the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection, Rochelle Newbold, who's attending COP26 in Glasgow. And hopefully she'll be joining us any minute now on Zoom. All right, so let's talk some more about this conference. We know that with the Paris Agreement a few years ago, a lot of talk about that, but of course we saw that is it danger, is that the right word to use? But when governments change, how sometimes priorities change. We saw that with the U.S. and rolling back a lot of the agreements there. How detrimental can something like that be? Not singling out the U.S., but just when, again, is it priorities? I don't know what words to use this morning, but
I know
that's scary.
I know what you mean. So absolutely, and this is one of the problems. If we think about the biggest emitters in the world, particularly those that are still using coal to fire their power stations, you've got to think of two of the biggest countries in the world, India and China. And that reduction in the use of fossil fuels such as coal, really important. So making sure that all countries are bought into this this kind of danger that we face, using your word, is really important, so that they then are able to take action. Yeah. And who's running the country makes a difference, because they're the ones that will decide the overall policies. Hopefully the pressure is strong enough now from kind of populations that all governments realise they need to do something, but finding that balance in your country is really a hard thing to do. And I think there's quite a lot of pressure or difficulty with change, no matter what that change might be. And part of the reason that you gather the countries together face to face is it's much harder for a country to say, no, I won't do anything about this, when you have a small island state standing in front of you saying, please, can you help me? My existence is at threat, and I need you to stop emitting so that climate change doesn't make this extreme weather worse. So that's the other reason that getting everybody together face to face in Glasgow is so important, because those conversations can happen in a way that, it's just hard over Zoom. It's just not so easy. As in the corridors. And you'll have seen perhaps some of the pictures. It looks like they're having fun, but that's part of it as well, because you need to have friendships of trust so that the different governments of the world can work together and talk about these things. And we need all the leaders to be making the commitments and then putting them into practice, because we can't do this by ourselves. It really is a globe action.
Absolutely. Any specific things that the UK is looking for to come out of the conference?
So my Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, talks about coal, cars, cash and trees. And coal we've just mentioned, which is reducing reliance on that as a fuel source. Cars, actually a lot of the emissions come from domestic use of vehicles. So anything we can do to use zero emission vehicles, hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles, and reduce those emissions is really important. Cash, the recognition that we've talked about that money is needed to make these changes. And then trees. Actually, one of the biggest things you can do is protect the environment, so that even if we are still using fossil fuels or emitting greenhouse gases in some way, there's a way that the world can cope with that. So planting trees, preventing deforestation, here planting mangroves. I'm told mangroves suck in more carbon than trees do, actually, per square foot. So protecting the environment makes a big difference.
She's often on this show talking about just what you've said. Rochelle Newbold, Director of the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection. We've connected with her now all the way out there in Glasgow. Good morning, Rochelle Newbold.
Good morning, Dwight. Good morning, Bahamas. I'm here with Mr. Charles Hamilton, one of our technical officers from the department in very cold Glasgow this morning.
Good morning, Bahamas.
Charles Hamilton, good morning. Great to talk with you again. And we have British High Commissioner Sarah Dixon with us here in studio, everybody. All right, so we were talking about that, whether you all are enjoying the weather up there in Scotland.
Of course, Bahamians take every opportunity to break out the furry boots and coats and scarves and tams and gloves, so we're feeling quite well read in.
I'm sure. All right, so tell us what's been some of the highlights so far and what you're expecting today. I know Prime Minister Davis is going to speak today, but tell us what we've seen so far.
Yeah, sure. We're definitely seeing a increased level of urgency from those who are in attendance at the conference. The Bahamas has certainly also been making a lot of waves, and the amount of persons that have been trying to engage with our Prime Minister, and also with some key bilaterals that we've been able to have. We are continuing to seek as many opportunities to ensure that the peoples of the Bahamas' needs are met, in particular in the pursuit of additional climate finance. And we feel like we're beginning to make some good inroads there, and also trying to support in the negotiation text in being able to ensure that we can move from Paris, move from here with the Paris rule book completed and move towards implementation. I don't know if Director Newbold, you had anything else to add to that?
Only that, for these days, everything is really focused on the various heads of states that are here, and the negotiation work actually can take place in earnest starting next week. So this is just the beginning of a very long discussion and interactive set of activities between countries.
Yes, indeed. Tell us more about what the Bahamas is going to be speaking about, putting forward, and pushing for over the next few days, Rochelle.
Well, as Mr. Hamilton says, the Prime Minister is going to set the stage when he takes the floor, which would be between 3 to 5 p.m. this afternoon in British time, which is
11 to about, so he should be on anytime between 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Bahamas time.
Okay.
So he had an amazing intervention prepared, and we believe that's going to really set the tone following up from his UN speech, because people see that the Bahamas is ready to advance climate action and they want to be partners with us.
We were talking about this earlier about over 100 countries now vowing to end deforestation by 2030. It's only 9 years away there. But let's talk about that. What role will the Bahamas play in this? What is being done here about that? We know we talked about it the last time you were on the show, I think, Rochelle, about what happens here and unsanctioned tree culling that happens often. But what can we do here, and what will we do? What have we pledged?
Well, as it relates to national efforts with regards to the conservation of our unique pine forest, the Carabinus pine, we have for years, beyond any pledge that has been going around globally, we have for years identified and acknowledged the importance for the protection of that tree species. And we will continue to do that and be a part of that. As part of this, they come into the role having met various recommendations, various legislations as it relates to the protection of the pine trees. But we also need the buy-in and the support of the Bahamian people to stop this mass clearing event. For us, to be quite honest, Dwight, it's not about signing any documentation. That's why we're here now, COP26. We're way past the 1.5. Many documents have been signed. What we need is actual action on the ground. And so for our people, that's what we need. We need that buy-in at the grassroots for our people to be well-informed, to be aware, and to take the willful initiative not to do things that are harmful to the environment, such that we will be in a very good position as a country, an island nation. We don't have options, right? When it's gone, it's gone. So our best position would be to ensure that it remains. What is ever on your property as individuals, be it the native plant species, to have those things maintained and to enhance those and to use them to our ability rather than trying to modify the landscape, because this modification is only creating more damage. It's only costing us a lot more funds to keep it in place. But if we work with our physical environment, it's cheaper, it's protective, that's why it's there.
Yeah, we're just talking in studio about mangroves, and we know these are always under threat here, especially with construction. And you've talked about it often, but let's talk more about that, what we need to do to protect these in this country.
Well, as you may be aware too, Dwight, there's a lot of initiatives going on right now with regards to mangroves, particularly in Grand Bahama. And there are initiatives going on in Abaco as well as in New Providence. And we do indeed support these reforestation of mangroves and the reestablishments of wetlands. But I also want Bahamians to be sensitive to the fact that we cannot rob Peter to pay Paul, meaning we taking mangrove area and transferring it into another area, because the mangrove species, the whole ecology of that environment is based on each member of that environment contributing in a manner that it's designed to biologically to do. So we have to be very careful about any sort of mass harvesting out of one area and putting to replant or reestablish another area. So things have to be deliberate. Things have to be thought through. Things have to have an informed set of people who are taking that level of action so that we don't create problems where Area 1, which was the source area, now becomes an area that's under significant pressure because of the removal of so much of its resources to enhance Area 2. So there is a balancing act, as it has always been with the environment. In order for man and the environment to be benefit, each has to handle itself in a balanced manner. Benefit for the mankind, benefit for the environment.
Yeah. And as we wrap things up, what would you say?
Perfect solution to the problem.
Yep, that sounds wonderful. What would you say would be your overall goal? What your best outcome scenario as you get when you leave COP26 this year? for the Bahamas specifically.
Yeah, securing as many opportunities regarding climate finance. That's what we need. We know that that's at the crux of the argument, and that's something that's being put forward as a priority here in Glasgow. At least from my end, that's our top priority.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the directors agreeing as well.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. We're out of time, but definitely when you get back, we hope we can talk to both of you, Rochelle Newbold and Charles Hamilton. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Enjoy and stay warm up there in Glasgow. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. And British High Commissioner, we got less than a minute. I do want to, we were talking about this earlier with the U.S. Embassy. We want to get your position on this. What's changed, what hasn't changed for folks who are traveling to the U.K. now? What are the requirements if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated?
Right, okay, in 1 minute. And Daniel did an amazing job at explaining the US rules. Our rules are already changed. They changed in October. And if you're vaccinated, you need to fill in a passenger locator form and book and pay in advance for a test that you take on or before day 2 of arrival. And you upload that to your passenger locator form. And that's what you do. If you're not vaccinated, you have to take a test in advance, complete a passenger locator form, and you have to book and pay for in advance tests on day 2 and day 8 and upload those to your passenger locator form. And you have to self-isolate in the country for up to 10 days. There's a scheme called Test to Release if you want to come out of that self-isolation earlier. And the self-isolation is in your the place that you're staying, the hotel, the person you're visiting. So for vaccinated travellers, it's much easier. And for Brits coming here, we removed the travel advisory restrictions, so there's no longer any warnings against coming to the Bahamas.
Okay.
So travel is quite easy in both directions.
Yeah. So again, if you're vaccinated, you won't have to do a test while you're over there for the period, or will you?
So if you're vaccinated, you will have to do a test within the first 2 days of arriving.
Okay.
And you can book and pay for that in advance of leaving here when you complete your passenger locator
So you still
form.
have to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
But definitely a lot simpler than if you were unvaccinated.
A lot simpler. Connectivity is getting better with the UK. British Airways schedule is going up to 6 times a week.
My goodness.
And from the 20th of November, Virgin Atlantic are restarting their flight to London twice a week. So 8 times a week between Nassau and London, which also obviously feeds into the rest of Europe.
Yeah, that's very exciting stuff. So looking forward to that. It is always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much, Sarah Dixon, for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. And hopefully all your listeners will be motivated now to help the planet.
We hope so indeed. Thank you again. Appreciate it. And thank you again to Charles Hamilton and Rochelle Newbold and everybody. That's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more Morning Blend Business and Morning Blend right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan, have a great day. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.